All right, it is 6:04 p.m. on February 6, 2025. Welcome to the Town of Sherborn Select Board meeting. As usual, as customary, usually we will open with the executive session. So after this intro, we immediately go to executive session, and at 7:30 we'll have our open session. I'd ask the Assistant Town Administrator to please read the executive session agenda.
Good evening. Item number 1 is meeting with Defense Counsel and Town Council in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A and 3, in Suffolk Construction versus DCAM 449, Mass 444, 2007, to discuss Richard V. Thompson versus the Town of Sherborn et al., Middlesex Superior Court, Civil Action 2181 CV 01004, and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, specifically this public records law, General Law, Chapter 4, Section 726, to discuss privileged communications from counsel regarding litigation. Item number 2 is meeting with Town Council pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, in Suffolk Construction versus DCAM 449, Mass 444, 2007, to discuss potential litigation and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A and 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general, special law or federal grant and aid requirements, specifically the Public Records Law, General Law, Chapter 4, Section 726, to discuss privileged written communication from Town Council and potential litigation regarding claims of Robert Murchison.
Thank you very much, Diane. All right, as chair, I declare an executive session is warranted for the previously read agenda items, and I move that we move into executive session. Do I have a second?
I second that.
All right, all in favor, Stephen?
Aye.
Paul, Jeff?
All right.
Paul?
Aye.
I might as well. Okay, please turn off the recording for executive session. All right, it is 7:30 on February 6, 2025. Already a good month into 2025, and time does fly. We have exited and completed the executive session portion of tonight's agenda. We are now going to begin the open session portion. I'm going to ask the Assistant Town Administrator to please read the open session agenda.
Good evening. After I read the agenda, the board can vote to amend or approve the agenda. I have not had any requests tonight for a public comment, and items may be taken out of order and topics not anticipated 48 hours in advance may be added. Item number 1 is the public hearing for art specialties changing the category of their ABCC license. Item 2 is the continuation of a cable license hearing regarding the renewal of cable television license of Comcast Cable Communications Management, LLC. Item number 3 is the introduction of our new Veteran Services Officer, Ian Rogers. Item number 4 is the review and consideration of revised farm pond sticker policy. Pam Dowse and Jeannie Guthrie will be here to discuss that with you. Item number 5 is the acceptance of a $10,000 donation to the Sherborn Library, and Liz Anderson is here tonight. Item number 6 is the review, discussion, and consideration of draft warrant articles for 2025 annual town meeting. Item number 7 is the draft FY26 operating and capital budget. Item number 8 is the TA payroll warrant and draft minutes of January 9th, 2025. Item number 9 is select board reports. Item number 10 is town administrator updates, the Pine Hill School HVAC, the ADA self-assessment and transition plan, the classification compensation project, and the Board of Health Administrator. Item number 11 is the discussion of the process of appointment of interim commissioners for the North Sherborn Water Sewer District.
All right, thank you very much, Diane. Do I have any motions relative to the agenda?
Move approval.
Do I have a
Second.
second? All right, all
Second.
in favor, Stephen,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Marion?
Aye.
I might as well. Okay, well, any further ado, going to the first agenda item, public hearing for art specialties, changing category of ABCC license. This is a public hearing, so I'll begin by reading the public hearing statement. The Sherborn Select Board will hold a virtual public hearing on Thursday, February 6, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. on the changing category ABCC license for art specialties Artur Nagarian, manager at 11 South Main Street. Category change is to all alcohol/wine and malt. Information on how to access the virtual meeting will be posted on the town's website, main calendar, www.sherbornma.org. Oral and written comments are invited. And that's from Jeremy Morset. All right. So, who's presenting this? Is Jeannie doing a statement on this, or who's doing just the initial?
I mean, I can start it. Last fall, April town meeting, the town approved an additional all alcoholic package store license. It was petitioned to the state approved it. Art has asked if he could get an upgrade to his license, basically. I think Art is he's on here, yep. So he can speak to what he would like to do with it.
Art, do you want to make a statement, or should we just proceed?
No, it's just trying to switch from wine and beer to full alcohol, so we'll be able to sell some other liquors as well, which will help the business a lot.
Okay, very good. As Dean indicated, this was went before the town at the last annual town meeting. All right, it's a public hearing, so I'm going to take first comments from the board, then comments from the public. I'll bring it back to the board. Any comments or questions from the select board? All right. Well, seeing, Marion, please go ahead.
Yeah,
And just so when I go to the public, I do ask people to use the raise hand feature. That's how I see you. It's very difficult in Zoom. You're all little squares to me. So I just ask if you can, just as Marion did there, use the raise hand feature. Sorry, go ahead, Marion.
All right, yeah. I look at this from really 2 points of view. One is that we always like to support small businesses in Sherborn. Hard to run a business in Sherborn. On the other hand, a liquor license is not a right by state law. There is state law that gives the towns a lot of guidance on this. And it is up to the town to decide which licenses should actually be awarded, taking everything into account. And one of the things that the state does want towns to take into account is, are there adequate numbers of places where the town can get the goods that it wants, the basic public good aspect? If there are, then another thing the town needs to judge is whether there's a public need. And there it comes down to whether there's an adequate number of places already in town where that need is fulfilled. And if the new license is fulfilling a need that's not yet fulfilled in town or anywhere nearby, then I think the applicant needs to show us what's different, what's special, that the public cannot get anywhere else in this small town. And I haven't really understood what that special thing is. This looks to me like a duplication of a service or access to goods that are already available in town. So to me, it doesn't reach the standard that's outlined in state law. So after thinking this over a lot, and I can see both sides of it, I come down against this new license because we already have actually next door a source of the goods that are going to be offered at Arthur's Specialties, and a couple of blocks away, I mean, maybe a quarter mile away, a full service wine, beer, and liquor store. Of course, there's going to be some overlaps, but I don't see anything special here that's not offered elsewhere. So for me, it doesn't come up to the standard that the state law sets.
I mean, I see other hands, but I think Paul might have a new thing. I'll just make this quick statement. From what I understand, there are two existing hard liquor licenses in town, one at the Sherborn liquor store next to the post office, and one held by the former Sherborn Out. I don't think the Out is currently using theirs. I don't know if they have plans to, but when the new ownership came in, I believe they made it kind of a pastry shop, a breakfast place, and they made it kind of a flower shop, but they haven't sold liquor out of it. So in theory, if that doesn't get utilized, um, we've always had two licenses forever, and it goes back. This kind of brings back to two licenses, I think, because that one's not being utilized. I don't know if Jeannie or anyone has anything to add to that, but I mean, I think
I believe the Out just sold wine, if I'm not mistaken.
they sold hard liquor.
They sold hard liquor as well.
Yeah, not that I know that very well. I know that. They definitely did. Does anyone else have anything to address to Marion's point before I start recognizing other people?
There's Paul.
Okay. So, I mean, Alex, I'll see you when we're done, when the board's done with our deliberations. So I'm going to recognize Paul, and then I'll recognize Alex first when we go to the public. So, Paul, did you have anything you want to add?
I had a question. I was hoping that somebody on the board could refresh my recollection as to why we went to the general court to get an extra alcohol license. Can somebody?
Eric, can I
Jeannie's got her hand raised.
Yeah, who's on
Eric,
the
can I
board?
clarify by what's going on?
Well,
If
let
I may.
me answer Paul's question, then I'll bring it back to you, Art, because I know you're the presenter on this. Does anyone have a question directly for Paul's question about why we went to the special legislation, whatever?
I think I can answer that. The town at the time only had a certain amount of all alcoholic licenses. We had beer and wine available, but not all alcohol package stores. So that's why it had to be approved at town meeting and then petitioned to the state to increase the number of all alcohol license.
Who was it intended for?
It was intended for art specialties. That's what it was. At the article listed arts as the person who was applying for it at town meeting, and that's what was approved.
I was listening to background material. I remember that.
Okay, thank
Jeremy,
you.
do you have? Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. I think if Jeremy had an answer to your question.
Yeah, just to expand on that, the request of the general court for the special legislation was a conversion of a beer and wine license to an all alcohol license. It wasn't the addition of a license, it was a conversion of a license.
Okay. Paul, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. So Art, did you want to add something to the
No,
discussion?
Jeremy did it said exact what I wanted to say. Basically, it's not a new license. It's not I'm not applying to get a new license. It's just a conversion from wine and beer to full alcohol to be able to sell some other stuff that customers come to the store. They get a wine and beer, but if they want to get, like, for example, bourbon or vodka, they cannot get it. And at the same time, it's just a conversion, not a new license. I just want to clarify that.
Okay, very good. Marion.
Well, in a sense, it could be considered a new license for hard liquor. I don't know what else to call it, for spirits, and that is new. So, I think state law does address the range of things that are available in town and if it's adequate or not.
Jeremy, do you have an address to that? Or-
Yeah, I guess so I think the board has two options to consider. Is to, as far as this hearing goes, you could grant the special legislation allows you to grant the conversion, but it does not force you to. So you have two options.
Okay. All right, anything else from the board? Okay, I'm gonna bring it to the general public. I see I have someone patiently waiting with their hand raised in the public. Alex Weatherall.
Thanks, Eric. Alex Weatherall. I own the Sherborn Market, which is next door to Arts Specialties. I'm in year 15, and I think my business is pretty well known. Before I state my opposition to this request of Art, I'd like some clarification on the topic that was raised, which is there one or in fact two liquor licenses to give in the town of Sherborn? That remains unclear to me, and I think other people in the audience. For instance, the word on the street is the people who own Fireside relinquish their liquor license. Is that true, or is that a rumor?
It is not true. They still have that license.
So the license that in effect Art is requesting is the only liquor license to give in the town of Sherborn.
It's the only full alcohol liquor license to be given because we were granted an additional one by the state.
Okay. So it's up to the select board now that Commonwealth has granted that. It's up to the select board to decide, do we indeed want to give it to Art?
We already have one for Sherborn Wine and Spirits, right? This is the second one.
Well, apparently it'll be the third one
It will
because,
be the third one.
okay. Yeah, I object to Art's request, and I wrote a letter to Jeremy, and I hope that the select board has read it. If you want, I can give you the two reasons I objected. Eric, do I need to do that?
That's up to you. How about the board? Has the board read the letter?
I've read it.
I've read it, but this is a public hearing, so I
Yeah.
think that the public deserves to hear Alex's points.
Yeah,
you're welcome
I
to-
object, and this is a bit of a complex argument on my part, and hopefully you'll have the time you can spare me. The first objection I had was simple. I don't know the people who own Sherborn Wine and Spirits, but I do know this is a very, very small town. And if Art starts to bring in liquor, he's not going to increase consumption in these towns. And I dare say, frankly, having brought in beer and wine, he hasn't increased consumption of those either, or he wouldn't be asking to extend his license. I think what you're going to do is you're going to instead of, and somebody hinted at this, instead of trying to help small business in one case next door to me, you're actually, if you grant this, you're going to hurt all three businesses. And I would say four, except Laura seems to have put her liquor license on ice for the moment. There's a floral shop there. So the simple fact is, by adding a point of distribution for liquor, you're going to do further damage to the already rather soft retail climate in Sherborn. That was my argument number one. Now, argument number two is, speaking as a retailer who has some success behind him, I don't understand the thrust of Art's argument, and he frankly hasn't articulated all that effectively here. I happened to attend a zoning board of appeals meeting in the late summer, early fall, and at that point, Art was asking for, and he received it, permission to sell ice cream by the scoop. And I wondered, how is ice cream by the scoop at sit-down tables consonant with beer, wine, olive oil, crackers, and hot sauce? And I would ask you all to consider add liquor to the mix. It makes it even more disconsonant. But I'm going to add a further twist, and that is, historically, the selling of alcoholic beverages has come in three forms: beer, wine, and spirits. And in the malt category, the beer category, historically, you had what are referred to as flavored malt beverages, and you know them by things like White Claw, Truly, Twisted Tea, Mike's Hard Lemonade. Those are all malt based. So I can sell them with a beer and wine license. But recently, the fastest selling products out there now are similar in appearance, but they're not malt based, they're spirits based. And you've probably all seen High Noon, sort of blue and yellow can. It's vodka based, Neutral vodka based, Loyal vodka based, Cutwater rum based. I can't sell those. So if you grant this license to Art, he can sell those, and that puts me at a disadvantage because the same customers who are buying a malt beverage are buying those beverages. So I would propose this, because as Marion said at the outset, you have lots and lots and lots of discretion, not only from your own town bylaws, but from the Mass General laws, discretion around who to grant alcohol licenses to. But I would suggest this: stay this hearing in order to give me the opportunity to apply for the same license. And then let you decide which of us, Art and me, is more, what's the right word? Appropriate as a recipient of that license, or deserving, whatever the case may be. Though if I had that license, I will articulate exactly what I would do. I wouldn't add any hard liquor at all, but I would add High Noon and whatever perhaps rum-based, very mild, low in alcohol drinks are the same target that my customers are buying today and enjoying. I have no interest whatsoever in adding hard liquor by the fifth, etc. I think if Art does that and you allow him to do that, you're making a big mistake. So I would say stay this decision, let me apply for the same license, and then you decide. But thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Alex. All right. Any other comments from the general public?
Eric,
Yeah, no, you can make a statement. You're definitely general public.
okay. So, I hear what Alex says, and to answer that question is, I've been waiting, and went to proper channels, asking the town meeting a year and a half ago to apply and get this, and the town meeting got approved to convert my license, And the reason I did that, it's not like I'm coming to compete with Alex, bringing stuff to make sure Alex is out of business. That's not my intention. My intention is because my business is slow, a lot slower than he's been there 15 years, and I'm getting hurt. And by adding one more thing to it, it will help me to coexist at the same time in town, And all of my stores, we do have it. And I don't bring I don't sell nips. I don't sell High Noon. Alex, I don't sell High Noon, I do sell
You don't sell it, Art, because you can't sell it.
Alex, this is I'm just giving my statement, and I don't
Put it
want
through
to
the chair.
argue.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I applied for this license 1.5 years ago. It was especially in the legislation. It says for art specialty converting from wine and beer to hard liquor, and to be able to sell it. I'm trying to coexist in the town. Yes, it is a hard town to do business with, and I'm trying to my best to be able to add more stuff to sell. If you get the license, yes, I'll go out of business. If I get the license, you're not going to go out of business because you have more stuff to offer than I do. What it is like when I get the stuff, I just simply coexist at the same time. But if you get the license, if you're opposing to do it, that you didn't wait it for a year for this license or 1.5 years. I waited for a year and a half to get this license. And this helps me to coexist. So basically you're trying to say, give that license to me and close the arts and close him down and be done with it. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking as a nice neighbor to be there, to exist, and to coexist at the same time and offer a little more people that pass through the streets. They're not even the Sherborn customers. They're customers from other places that come to my stores to buy products. And they come in and they look at it, and everybody knows it. I've been in town almost 4 years now, and I have done nothing but good and sell everything good stuff. And then even ice cream helps a lot of people. I have people come from Medfield. I have people come from surrounding towns to have the ice cream. And that's bringing people in the town, not getting people or competing with other people. That's my statement.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize Alex, but if this is just going to be a back and forth, I might cut at some point because I think, okay, go ahead, Alex, but I don't want it to be too much a dialogue just between two people.
Look, I don't know Art. I've met him once. It's not a back and forth. it's not and I don't need to tell the select board this, but I would say this for the public record. It's not the select board's job to help Art improve his business. Now, I've been up every single year I've been in this town, and no one would doubt why that's the reason, because I've put blood, sweat, and a tremendous amount of capital into it. Last year I was down, and far more than 100% of my top line decline was in nicotine products, and that's good news. My beer and wine sales was up strong. My simple point is, it's not the select board's job to decide, well, if we do this, then Art will succeed. If you do this, you're going to hurt Sherborn Wine and Spirits. And if you do this in my favor, you'll make me an even healthier, even more attractive place for people in Sherborn to go. And it's very difficult to argue that I don't run a very attractive spot. But thanks very much for the opportunity.
So I have a question for, I don't put anyone on the spot. Does anyone here know what the future of the former Sherborn out with Laurie's place, if there's an intent or an L to utilize that liquor license? Just curious. 'Cause I know it has been utilized since they took it over. And there was for a long time, two all purpose, whatever, all liquor stores and now there's one. Any other comments from the board? Okay. The only thing I'll say, I'm trying not to advocate. Okay, I see a minute. Too much either direction here. I'll just simply say, and first of all, I will say that Alex is a great stakeholder in town, and I mean that, absolutely great stakeholder. That's been such a mainstay. And it is not our job to actually promote a business, but I will say, since I moved back into town, everyone knows I grew up in town. I moved back in 2006, so what's that up to? Almost 19 years now, whatever. There's been like 20 businesses in that little building. You know what I mean? I do have a certain level of sympathy for the value, which helps in the utilization of that building. Where I think everyone struggled from the bike shop to the karate place to like the pet shop to whatever else has been there. I still miss that sandwich shop big time.
Worse than habit.
And stuff like that. Anyways, Marion, what do you have to say?
Well, I just wanted to quote a little bit from state law. I don't think it's our job to pick winners and losers. And so, we want businesses to succeed in town. Like Alex, on this particular point, since this is basically a hard liquor license, maybe they won't sell it fifths, but they'll sell rum or vodka-based drinks or whatever. That's also available at Sherborn Wine and Spirits, so it's not just Alex. And given the fact that we have a wine and liquor store selling the whole range in town, it's not far away. The state law says the local license board has the authority to grant, revoke, and suspend license with a view only to serve the public need and in such a manner as to protect the common good, and to that end, to provide, in the opinion of the licensing authorities, an adequate number of places at which the public may obtain, blah, 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 the different sorts of beverages for which the provision is made. So the question is, what's adequate? And I would argue that if Arts was selling something that you couldn't get at Sherborn Wine and Spirits or at Sherborn Fuel, that might be an argument, but you can get everything at Sherborn Wine and Spirits. So I would argue that according to state law, we have a number of places that are adequate for the public to get what they need in town. That is, there's no public good at stake here. So, yeah, I think we haven't yet seen that at the places where the public can obtain these things in town is not adequate. So
before I recognize the other board members, the other thing I'll say, I think it would have been And I'm not saying because this was supported the special legislation at the annual town meeting unanimously among this board. Um, I think that's the time we should have killed it because it was identified then. Do you know what I mean? We all knew this was coming, and
Yeah.
it seems like, I know it's the correct process, but I think the more appropriate, or call it fair, for lack of a better, would have been to kill it then, not kill it now after we go to the state and say we need this. Gets approval by town meeting, probably near unanimous. I don't know what town meeting vote was, but unanimous among this board. Um, I think the timing to kill it now is just awkward at best. Okay, I'm gonna go Stephen, Jeff, Alex. So Stephen, go ahead.
Sure, thanks. I am I'm sort of ambivalent about this. But I guess what I will say is that um by the same token as Alex saying that it's not the select board's duty to prop up a business, it's also not really our duty or really in our purview to restrict a business and to restrict consumer choice. I do, I believe in the free market. I do understand what Marion is saying, but currently there is only one retail outlet in the town where you can buy hard liquor. Now, that's just because the second license isn't being utilized, but still, in terms of consumer choice, there is no choice. There's only one place, and so this would give a second retail store the opportunity to offer, I mean, it would be one thing if Art decided to sell all the exact same things that Sherborn Wine and Spirits had at a slightly lower price. But I would imagine that his move would actually be to figure out what isn't being sold there and to essentially expand the market. Um, and Alex, I am a big supporter of your market, and certainly the gas station, Jackson's Kitchen, has been great. But again, I don't believe that it is the select board's job to pick winners and losers, right? I think that to me, it seems that Art has gone through all the proper channels, and like Eric just said, at town meeting, this was approved with Art as the applicant, and then subsequently this was approved through special legislation. And to me, it does seem like he's gone through all the proper channels, and I don't. To me, it's a matter of everything has been pointing towards this being approved, and I don't see an adequate reason to now choose not to approve it, if that makes sense. Mostly because sort of the free market, democracy, and the proper, all of the proper administrative channels have been followed. And so I don't see a reason why we should stop this from moving forward.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah, my thing is, I think we're thinking of it too narrowly, and I agree with what Steven just said, but these are two very different stores, so it's not just about one liquor store versus another. It seems like uh, the one that's considered the art specialty applying for license has people that are going in and looking at all the other products that they have, whether it's vinegars or olive oils or all the different. So you can correct me if you want, but it's really about sort of gourmet ingredients for cooking, and then people can conveniently get alcohol at the same time. Maybe they're even using the alcohol in the sauce where they put the vinegar and the olive oil. I don't know. But whereas if someone wants to get, a 6-pack of beer and, nice bottles of wine, which I've done at the Citgo, that it's not just the products they're selling, it's kind of the venue and what people are doing in that location. You could, get some gas and get, a bottle of wine for dinner quickly versus going to a gourmet store. So I don't think we need to think of it as just who's selling alcohol. We need to think of what kinds of businesses are in town, and by having a diverse type of business in town, it's serving more than just a venue for one product or one category of product. So I think by having them both coexisting, it's better for the town to have a variety of types of stores.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Now, Alex, you're next.
Well, I have to, Jeff, I have to address that, because if what you just characterized was true, then Art would be succeeding, and he wouldn't have had to confess, as he did 20 minutes ago, that without this incremental liquor, his business is likely to close. So I think that's a bit of a spurious argument. And Stephen, same thing. You talk about being in a free market, but this is not a free market. That's the whole point. Massachusetts being a Puritan place, there are a very finite number of licenses to give. So by definition, you're not managing in a free market. Whether you like it or not, you, the select board, have got to make a tough decision. And I don't like to call it picking winners, but I guess if that's your characterization, that's what it is. But it is absolutely not a free market. And lastly, I would say that just because, as Stephen said, everything is pointing towards this being approved, that doesn't make it a noble process that even a year and a half ago made any sense. And by the way, I was preoccupied spending $1.3 million on a new Dunkin' Donuts that everybody raves about. So I think we have to be very careful, and no one has addressed my request is stay this decision pending you give me the opportunity to apply for the same license and then make a decision once cooler heads have prevailed. But if not, a specialty food store with beer and wine, or ice cream by the scoop, or liquor, what is going to make Art successful? That's whether fair or unfair, or nice or not nice, it is the law of the jungle. That's free market. But your decision about licenses is not the free market, and that's the challenge.
All right, thank you. Art, you're next.
Okay.
Hey there, my name's Jen Bonoslawski. I'm actually Martor's wife, and I don't know how your public records work, but I'm at 5 Partridge Street in Watertown, if you're being, particular about your public records. So we've been doing this for a while. It's been about 13 years. And one of the things we've found is that when it comes to working with these kinds of licenses, there's always this anxiety that there'll be too many of the same licenses in a small place, and it'll destroy the competition, and there won't be enough customers to go around, and everyone will fail, and it'll be terrible. And that never happens. What ends up happening, what we've seen over and over again, every time we've approached with this, is that it actually creates more of a magnet. When more businesses have more licensure, more opportunities to sell various different things. Alex, I don't appreciate you smiling when I'm talking. It's really belittling, and I want you to stop.
Speak through the board, then, please. Yeah.
Okay, will do. Thank you. That it ends up creating more business to go around. It becomes more of a magnet. People hear, oh, so-and-so has alcohol and so-and-so has sandwiches, and more people show up. And that's been our experience over and over again doing this. So.
And then my last thing is Alex basically wants to do monopoly and have all the town in this area. Oh, I have Dunkin' Donuts, I have the gas station, I have the sandwich shop, I have the pizza shop. Alex, how about us?
I'm going to shut you down.
Anyway,
I can't target the individuals going through. Speak through the board and relative to the application. All right. Anything else from the board? All right. Any motions on the board? Yeah, Paul?
I move that we approve the grant of the conversion of the license to Art Specialties.
All right, very good. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, Stephen?
Aye.
Jeff?
All right.
Paul?
Aye.
Marion?
Reluctant aye, but we'll see how it turns out.
Sounds easy. All right, I am I as well.
Can
Thank you.
say something before?
Attention. Yeah, before we close.
Yeah, just want to explain my vote because I didn't say anything. I was at the town meeting that voted this. And to me, part of my responsibility as a select board member is to represent the community, and the community voted for it. And that's a very powerful argument for me. The other things I would mention is that, in fact, many of my friends go to Millis to buy alcohol, or they go to Medfield to buy alcohol. So I don't agree that all the needs are already being met. Otherwise, why would my friends be going to Millis? There's a place right near Roach Brothers, and in Medfield is a place near CVS. And I've participated in a number of conferences on the state level about essentially deregulating alcohol, that it's an important driver for economic growth. And by being so restrictive in Massachusetts, we're stifling economic growth. And there's been a number of discussions, pro and con, on that. I'm of the camp that alcohol licenses do stimulate the economy. They do provide a boost generally. So for all those reasons, but for most importantly, the fact that the voters who voted for me and voted for the board have already voted this, and we're just implementing it.
All right, Gina, do you have something? Because 8:09, we're up to agenda item 1 here. We're almost done with agenda item 1.
It's just quick. I need 3 of you to come in and sign the paperwork that has to go to the ABCC. That's all.
Okay, very good. We'll do that. Thank you very much, Janine.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
Okay. So agenda item number 2, continuation of hearing from January 9th and January 23rd. Select board meeting. It's also, I think, from a December one, to be honest, and thrown in there as well. A cable license hearing regarding renewal of cable television license of Comcast Cable Communications Management LLC. The lawyer's not ready again with this here. There's been some issues with getting this person engaged behind the scenes. So
could you open the hearing?
All right. Any motions relative to this hearing?
I think we need to open the hearing in order to.
That's right. We made an opinion before, though. I don't need to read the entire introduction before. We've actually haven't done it the last 2 times, and we've had that opinion before. This is a continuation of the hearing. So
Okay, so then I'll make a motion that we continue this hearing until
March 20th is what I recommend.
Until March 20th.
That's what I recommend, yeah.
And I second that motion.
I think it'll be futile to do it to the next meeting. Okay, all in favor, Stephen?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Marion?
Aye.
And I am as well. All right. Thank you, Ian Rogers, and for your patience. Agenda item number 3, introduction of Veteran Services Officer Ian Rogers. Does it go straight to Ian or someone introducing him?
I'll say a few words, Eric. Thank
Okay.
you. As you know, you've entered an intermunicipal agreement with the towns of Walpole and Medfield to share the services of Ian. And now that that's finalized, Ian's anxious to get to work here, and we wanted to bring him forward to introduce you to Ian, and Ian to the board and to the community. So Ian Rogers, he's been serving as Medfield and Walpole's Veteran Services Officer for several years. He was an active Air Force member. He's volunteered in nonprofit, veteran nonprofit organizations. He received his VSO certification from Williams and Mary's Law School. He's a VA accredited veteran services officer, and we're happy to have him in town. He's going to set up some office hours on Friday mornings in Town Hall. We'll have him set up in the select board office. And I know he's got some outreach planned. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Ian.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Ian. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, just I'm sorry for my cough. I've had a dry cough for like a couple of weeks now. I can't get rid of it. But I just wanted to thank the board for voting to join the district. I think that's you'll be hard to find anybody who's more passionate about serving the veterans in their community than me. I actually lived it myself. I was in the Air Force from 2001 to 2004. My second day of tech school was 9/11. Everything went to hell in a handbasket, and I had a lot of mental health struggles after getting out. And it wasn't until I myself, excuse me, got connected with the VA and finally got my mental health treated that my life changed exponentially for the better. And I don't take that lightly for any of the veterans in our communities. And I can't wait to outreach, reach the older veterans, the Vietnam veterans, the last remaining World War II veterans, but also some of the Desert Storm and Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom veterans. And I'm working on some programming in Walpole, a warrior within yoga program for younger veterans. It's actually for any or veterans of all ages, but I'm selectively picking times where working veterans can actually go. And we're off to a good start. I think we're averaging about 6 attendees per session, which is great. These are like 6 people that wouldn't normally have been on my radar, and now I get to have conversations with them about how I can improve their lives.
Well, that's impressive background, and thank you for telling your story, and thank you for your service as well.
Of course, thank
I
you.
appreciate this. Jeff? Yeah.
This, hoping to meet you, Ian. This is a little shameless self-promotion here. My other night job, I'm chair of the Boy Scout troop in town, and so we do a lot of flag ceremonies on Veterans Day. We do march in the parade, and typically do the flag ceremony on Memorial Day parade in town, the cemetery in town, and have buglers and all that kind of thing. So
Oh, excellent.
hopefully we can connect with you, because that really benefits the boys also to be.
Yes. I find it those ceremonies are a good way to pull the entire community together, not just the veterans.
And they can help with projects. Sometimes it's with like helping with parking, or if you have an event or something. So anyway, just
Absolutely.
self-promotion, as I said. Thank you.
Hey, very good. There's no vote necessary, right? This is just, oh, Bob, yeah, Paul, go ahead. Please use it.
I was going to ask a question. So Ian, later in this meeting tonight, we're going to be talking about the annual town meeting. And most of my towns are moving to adopt the new HEROES Act. And in particular, the CPI increases to veterans benefits. And we don't have that on our warrant here. I'm wondering if you could look into that and give us some recommendation.
Definitely. Yeah. Do you want me to come back to a different meeting or just go over with you what I know off the top of my head right now?
If it's substantive, Paul, would it be consistent with the agenda item?
I'm only asking him to do it in the future.
Okay.
That I wasn't asking for him to. I don't mean to put anybody on the spot.
Well, welcome to have him back. Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem.
good idea.
I'm more than happy to come back and address any of your concerns with the HERO Act.
And then we can actually put an appropriate agenda item on, and maybe other interested people that want to hear about it will attend as well. Very good.
Excellent.
All right. Well, welcome aboard, Ian, and again, thank you for your service, and we look forward to working with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian.
Okay, next up, review and consideration of revised farm pond sticker policy. Pam Dellis and Jeannie Guthrie. Both
Good.
fighting who's going to speak first.
You guys have the 18.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Pammy, go.
All right. So the last time you guys approved a farm pond sticker policy was in 2005. So Jeannie and I thought it would be good just to update the policy a little bit to add in a couple of things. Currently, the Metco program wasn't on there, so we added that. Tish and I came up with a idea for a senior golden sticker so that we don't have to issue the senior sticker every year to our seniors. They could just have a golden sticker that they have on their car every year for as long as they own that car and that they're here in Sherborn. We don't charge them for it, yet we still have to pay for the sticker every year and having them come in and get it and all of that. So that would cut down a lot. We issue about 350 senior stickers a year. So that's in addition, the senior sticker. The other change is we're looking for approval to increase the out of town lottery from 150 stickers to 200. And then I think the most controversial one, and I'm just bringing it up for conversation. I have PTSD from last night's meeting, so I don't want it to go really long. Is I don't even know if I want to say it at this point, but I'm going to because I'm so tired. Charging for transfer station stickers. I did do a poll on my MCTA website, and the majority of towns do charge for transfer stickers, and they range from $20 to $50. I think Medfield does $125, all the way up to $385. By no means am I asking for that, but something might be beneficial for us. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
I mean, certainly food for thought for the future. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the title of the agenda item is not consistent with that, but you do have it in the background material, and I do think maybe we should come back for discussion. I
Mm-hmm.
believe communities, and Jeremy probably knows this better than I do, will have like revolving funds for sanitation and stuff like that. And I don't know where our money goes when I get rid of my TV or refrigerator. Maybe it's a similar type thing there. The last thing I'll say is the only deterrent I can think of, the only reason not to do it is I think it was Framingham when he started to charge big bucks for certain things. Suddenly there was like mattresses thrown out into like the rail trail and to like the what do you call it, the Farm Pond Aqueduct and things like that. I don't
Right.
think you'll come into that too much if you keep it modest. You know what I mean? Because we're not too bad with that. But basically, you had illegal dumping once
Yeah.
Framingham started charging like big bucks for certain things. You know what I mean? And you had that certain dumping factor.
Yeah.
But Sean, I'll say something. If it's about the sanitation, I'm going to revisit it. I don't want to. I made a mistake of going too on, but say what you're going to say, Sean. But I don't want to have a huge discussion about the sanitation thing.
I don't even need to. Yeah, you should bring it back and allow a broader group to come discuss it.
Yeah. No, and the cost of disposal has been skyrocketing. Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, let's bring it back to the farm pond stickers. I'll just say something real quick. I do support. I mean, I have yet to be in that pond the last several years where it's been super crowded. The only thing that upsets me about the pond is I can't take my canoe down to the landing. I'm still going to fight that to the day I die. The what do you call it? I think going from 150 to 200, if I remember correctly, I think that's one of the largest revenue sources, out of town stickers. Quick question, I think maybe it's for Jeannie, is how many people do we turn down this? Just so we give out we sell 150 stickers. How many applicants do we
sell
get?
150. We probably take in 200 envelopes
Okay.
per year, so we could sell them all.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, the pond's been, I mean, residents continue to buy the stickers, which is great, but I think in the back of their mind, they buy it just in case they want to go, and then they can. But people seem to go away more than they did in the past. So it was just a thought to bring in some more revenue. That was all.
Yeah. Stephen.
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. So the golden ticket, basically that just means it's a permanent ticket, right? So you said how many senior tickets do you usually give out each year? Was it 350?
Yeah, last year we did 365.
Okay. And so do you know about how much money it costs to print that many stickers per year? Is
Uh,
essentially how much
not-
money would we be saving by doing the golden ticket?
I didn't quite look into that. Hold on. If you have anything else, you can
Yeah.
ask away.
Yeah.
So I guess one question I would have would be sort of like enforcement of it, because I could imagine that, okay, once somebody has a ticket that doesn't expire, they would find very clever ways to, pass that on to other family members, transfer it to another vehicle. And I mean, I know that, there's going to be a registry or whatever, but whoever is manning the booth at the parking lot is not going to be checking that closely. They're going to see the golden ticket and just kind of wave you through. So is there any concern about that in terms of enforcement?
Well, hopefully they're looking at the license plate too, because I guess anybody could do that with any ticket that we have, whether it's a golden ticket or not.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like with an annual ticket, it's like, there's kind of a risk versus reward. But with one that never expires, it's like, oh, well, that's pretty good.
You know what it does?
It's
It adds $200 to the value of the used car when they sell their car.
yeah, yeah. So that's kind of one, question that I had, and then, um, are there other changes like the nanny pass? Is that new? No.
Oh,
Okay. So
no.
the only new thing is the golden ticket and then adding the Metco.
And the stickers are about $1.15 a piece,
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're talking about
$400.
$400 or so. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. All right. So the only changes are golden ticket, Metco, and then increasing the non-resident to 200. Those are
Yep.
the only changes.
And I think we added just more specifics like town employees, friends of Farm Pond. We just put in, you have the old and the new policy in your
Okay.
handout.
Oh, okay. So okay.
Yeah.
So that one underneath that was the full
And
policy.
veterans, whether you're a resident or a non-resident, you can come to the pond for $90.
Got it. Got it.
And the other thing too is even though a senior would get one golden ticket per household, any additional would be the additional $30. It's not like they're getting two free ones per family.
Okay.
That makes sense. This is one per household. Marion?
Yeah, a couple of questions. The landowner only tickets, does that mean people who own land but don't live in town?
Yes, they pay taxes. They don't get a transfer station sticker. They only get a sticker to the pond and they pay for it.
Okay, but they don't live in town, but they own land in town.
And and they pay taxes, yes.
And pay taxes, okay. And then the out of town parking sticker award, do the selectmen still consider on a case-by-case basis requests from charitable organizations for waivers for the lottery process? Is that a thing?
In other words, a charity would be like the Chocolate Cafe FOPA asked for one for their auction. Pine Hill asked for one for their auction. It's a non-resident, so that's what they do. The Walker School in Needham, for as long as I can remember, have gotten 2 passes every year. They bring a van. There's one for each of their vans. They bring a van of their students over in the mornings. They also bring people that to help supervise it. So they come. They don't come all summer. It's usually the first few weeks in July, and that's about it.
Okay, so this is done basically by you as a representative of the select board.
Yes, and I run it by I've run a couple by Eric. I've run it by Jeff last year, Jeremy, before we make the decision.
I think isn't the Metco thing I really like too. And that was fairly recent that we added the Metco thing, wasn't it? Like about 2 years ago?
No, that
Well,
was
the
last
Metco
year.
thing has always been in place. It's just that Marion kind of brought it to
More
be
awareness. Okay.
right.
A lot of
More
people
official.
didn't know about it, and it didn't include Dover students from Chickering.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to include them because, it's their classmates.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so just to clarify, are we looking to vote to accept this today?
Yeah, because motor vehicle bills are going to be going out.
And
So we're going to be doing
ordering
stickers soon.
stickers. Right.
Any other questions, any other discussion from the board, public, or anyone?
I'll make a comment,
Yep,
same comment I've made on and off for 20 or more years.
say it again.
This is a policy. A policy by definition, as a matter of law, is not binding and not enforceable, except we're all agreeing that this is the way we want to operate. The way you could do it is by having rules and regulations. And if you're doing a rule and regulation, it's more formal, legal, enforceable. But that would require a public hearing to make a modification. The beauty of a policy is you can change it anytime. With that being said, then I make a motion to approve the proposal.
Can I get a second? Then I'll recognize Marianne.
I'll second it.
Okay, Marianne, just continue discussion.
This is I want to continue this discussion, but I think we can take a vote on this policy first. And then I want to continue discussion related to this.
But usually after a vote in a second, sometimes you can do discussion. Sometimes Paul and I disagree as to when that should happen, but this is appropriate time for discussion, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, this is not going to affect the vote. But well, maybe it will. I have a question actually, now that I think of it. The lottery is open to people who don't live in Sherborn.
Right.
Who knows about the lottery? Who is it open to outside of Sherborn?
It's been in effect forever. We put it on the website. People start to call now. Now. We get people from Boston. We get people from Millis, Medway, Franklin, Dover, Wellesley, Natick. So we get them for Westwood. Yeah. We
Jamaica
get them from
Plain.
everywhere. Jamaica, yep. Jamaica
Yeah.
Plain, yep.
Okay, that's good. The reason I'm asking, I must say, is that we're in the process of rewriting the open space and recreation plan, and kind of it's informed by the state open space plan that has a certain policy that they revise every year, and their current policy, the state current policy for open space usage in towns, is that they are encouraging, not enforcing, but encouraging environmental equity in the use of open space. For example, there are neighborhoods right next to us in Framingham that probably don't even know that Farm Pond in Sherborn exists. And yet, why should they not be able to apply for
we have people from Framingham. Two of our best fishermen are from Framingham. They come every single year. They get their boat permits. So people from everywhere know our biggest issue with Farm Pond is the parking. We don't have that much. If you're there for a swim meet, there is no parking. So
it's not about parking, because you're going to give out only a certain number of out-of-town stickers. It's a lottery.
Right, but anybody can ride their bike in, anybody can walk in. The issue is the parking. You don't need a sticker to ride your bike in. You don't need a sticker to walk in. It's mostly for the parking part of it.
Oh, right. Okay, I understand. I guess where I was thinking about with this is, how do people from other towns hear about this? And how do we make the availability of out-of-town stickers, available in a more make the knowledge available in a more equitable way. And I don't want to extend this because it doesn't affect the vote at all, but something to think about for the future.
All right. I do know people park at Little Farm Pond and walk down. I see them all the time. All right. All that being said, we have a motion and a second, and I collect a vote. All in favor to approve this, Stephen?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Marion?
Aye.
I might as well. Thank you very much for this effort. Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, acceptance of a $10,000 donation to the Sherborn Library.
Ray, move approval.
No, I'll recognize you in a second, but let's talk, and then I'll go right to Paul.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz Anderson, Sherborn Library Director. So just a little explanation background. We were approached about a grant application at the end of 2024 from Stork Impact Partners, who was interested in giving funds to support the library's landscape and environmental education. So when the library reopened, we had a comprehensive landscape plan that was created by the former resident, Hadley Berkowitz, and the plan's goals are to evoke the region's horticultural heritage, to use a majority of native plants, to incorporate new trees to help shade and absorb clear water runoff, use resilient drought-resistant species to reduce reliance on irrigation, select plants that add color, and through the 3 seasons and winter interests, create new opportunities to educate and gather. So we have completed phase 1 of our plan from Hadley Berkowitz, which was 7 gardens and 5 gathering areas with mostly native plants that showcased the natural beauty of the town and the region and serve as a focal point for library programming centered on sustainability and fostering environmental literacy. So these funds would help to support further phases of our landscape plan, which include creating 2 community gathering spots, a children's discovery garden that will provide a safe haven for exploration and discovery, and an outdoor reading room that will offer a tranquil sanctuary.
Excellent. Thank you, Liz. Any questions, comments, and motions relative here on the board?
Yeah, move to take the money.
Right. So I should have recognized right away.
But also to credit Hadley, I know Hadley well, and to credit, you know, the people who are bringing this about too.
They've done a beautiful job while we're on that subject.
Absolutely.
I love the landscaping that's been done, and I have no doubt that this money is going to even make it better.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval. Stephen.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Marion.
Aye.
Might as well. Okay. Thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you.
What's up next? The town meeting? All right, this could be short, this could be long. So review, discussion, and consideration of draft warrant articles for 2025 annual town meeting. Jeremy, I think that's you.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So yeah, in your packet is a very draft town meeting warrant. As you know, the select board closed the warrant at its last meeting. There's a draft in your packet that has not yet been fully reviewed by town council. However, pieces of it have. So at some point, at a future meeting soon, it'll be brought back to you for you to formally vote the official formal warrant language. But there are several articles in there that would benefit from some of your from your input. Those being the article regarding the 1858 townhouse and the lease extension, how you'd like to possibly frame that as by way of the term or leaving that term silent. The public meeting recording bylaw. I took the sample that Paul provided and edited it and put it into the proper format and included it in a section in the bylaw, and took a stab at what boards and committees you may want that to apply to. So that's something for discussion. What boards, committees, and types of meetings you would want that bylaw to apply to. The town meeting quorum, you need to propose a number. Currently, the quorum is 100. I put in 50, but that's a decision for you folks, what number you'd like to include into that warrant article. And also at the planning board meeting last night, the planning board voted 4-1 to request the select board to remove the sign bylaw article. So they would request that you open the warrant, remove that article, and then close so that the sign bylaw change article is removed from the warrant. So I think that's sort of my agenda. I know Paul had brought up, actually he can speak to it. Go ahead, Paul.
No, go ahead, Jeremy. You can, this is
good.
You're doing good.
Thanks.
Roll.
So I've been forwarding to the board, some details of the governor's new filing of the Municipal Empowerment Act, That was an act that was filed last year. It's sort of now version 2.0, filed by the governor this session. It contains a lot of things that may be of interest to the town of Sherborn to adopt, which generally require town meeting action to adopt them. This act is not yet law, but it could be. Paul may know more of how the time frame through the state legislature and how that may impact whether or not you'd want to put in some sort of placeholder warrant articles at this town meeting, or at the least sort of put out a formal support for the bill and sort of help us advocate for its passage.
So if I could, let me give some details here.
Yeah, Paul.
The idea is to put an article on the warrant to accept any amendments to general laws that may be enacted by the general court for the benefit of municipalities. And then at town meeting, we can pass that over if nothing has happened. But in the meantime, here are some of the options. Number one, local option taxes. These sections establish a new option motor vehicle excise surcharge of 5% and authorize municipalities to either dedicate the proceeds to a special purpose stabilization fund or treat the revenue as general fund revenue. Then another category is a regional board of assessors. This section allows multiple communities to implement regional boards of assessors, eliminating the necessity of each town having a local board, and aims to streamline the duties imposed upon such officials while reducing challenges communities have in filling vacancies. Then, skipping some of them that are no-brainer that we adopt, but I want to give you the controversial ones. Skip that. One-time override for non-capital expenses. This section allows municipalities to adopt a one-year override for non-capital expenditures, similar to a capital outlay exclusion, which is only a one-year increase in the amount to be raised by taxation to pay for a capital item. This would be a 1 year increase for operating expenses. Then local option taxes 2 include local options for increasing the lodging tax on hotel, motel, and other rentals from a maximum of 6% to 7%. Local option taxes 3. This section increases the local option meals tax from 0.75 to 1.00% of the sales price of a meal at a restaurant or local store. So I'm throwing all those out, but the article would read to see if the town will vote to accept any general laws adopted by the general court for the benefit of municipalities or take any other action related thereto. And that's because it's going to take a while for all this to sort through the legislature. But the goal is it's going to be done before July 1. And therefore, it should happen before then. If something happens and we want to do something, some of these things may provide some interest to the advisory committee or to the select board to improve our financial position.
All right, and I did see the email sent me in Jeremy, and it does look interesting. There's certainly features that I definitely think would benefit Sherborn. I have a little reservation on making part of this town meeting, but I'll discuss that in a minute. I want to recognize Mary Ann.
All right, are there any points in that proposed state bylaw that you see as being potentially not good for Sherburne?
No, we've gone through it and vetted this many times, and we're working with the governor on this.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
It's only helpful stuff.
okay, wonderful. I have a second comment on the warrant articles. I see Addie May is here, so maybe she could speak up and correct me if I'm wrong. And Dan is here, Dan Sichel is here too. He could correct me. But I believe at the planning board meeting, they discussed separating the accessory dwelling unit change in our local zoning bylaws out of that amend zoning bylaw, the general bylaw article, the miscellaneous article, and giving it its own article, making it a separate article. So Addie May or Dan, I mean, this is just a heads up. When we open the warrant to make other corrections, we could make that as well if it's appropriate.
Marion, that's already included in the warrant.
I don't see it. Oh,
Next page.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll take it back.
Okay.
A mistake.
I spoke with both Addie May and Heidi this morning.
Okay.
You know, saying though, kind of back to what Paul's proposing here. I still think it needs to be vetted. I think we have to look at it. I don't know if all those items are good for Sherburne. Like I heard about a 1-year override. I don't know anything about the details, but you know how I'm allergic to overrides. So I think such things would be I'd want to look at closely, and I want to know the timing of legislation because frankly, can we just adopt them in a special if we had to? Do you know what I mean? And look at it closely. It seems a little bit late in the game that I don't want to like do something that could be very, very impactful just to jump on it sooner rather than later. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts about the legislation that Paul and Jeremy were talking about.
Could I respond to that
Yeah,
first?
sure. Yeah.
So there's a chart that Jeremy prepared showing the unused levy capacity and the used levy capacity.
Yeah.
And what that shows is that the town is potentially heading for the potential of a general operating override. And that's something I don't want to see. And I don't want to impose that on the community if we can avoid it. So if we do little things like increase the meals tax by 1% or by 1% from 0.75%, that's going to produce additional revenue.
Absolutely.
And you add up all those little pieces of revenue, then maybe that chart, instead of looking like an Egyptian pyramid going up and then going down, it would be flatter and give us more years.
I get that, but I thought you said something about a 1-year automatic. You know, it doesn't matter. All this is kind of proving is my point a little bit. Is I think this thing's gonna have to look at carefully. I just think if you want to do an additional agenda item just on this to see if you want to look at it, I'm kind of advocating to make a special to adopt it, or unless what's the timing on this, Paul? What do you predict as this goes to the general court? Will it be approved in time for the annual to matter?
There's a real push to do that for the reasons you just articulated. Nobody wants to wait a year to get the benefits of this program. We don't want to have to call special town meetings for all the cities and towns. But let me just say a word about the capital, but the 1-year override. The 1-year override has to follow all the processes of an override. It's not automatic. It doesn't exclude the voters voting for it. It doesn't exclude the Board of Selectmen voting for it. It doesn't exclude a town meeting vote appropriating the funds. It's the same process, only instead of a permanent override, it gives you the alternative of avoiding a permanent override by a 1-year boost in revenue to cover something that may be a one-time expense that's.
But like I said, just because I hadn't read the details, I don't know if anyone has. So let me take it to Jeremy, and then I'm gonna ask a question after that.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that this act would have some local options that the towns could choose to go into by action of town meeting, and then there's other things that would become just sort of the law of the land. Like this is the act that would permanently extend virtual meetings for public meetings. So that wouldn't require town meeting action. That would be, applied statewide. So I think the act has a combination of such things.
So then can I ask a follow-up question, Jeremy and Paul? So then if there are certain parts of the act that would require an active town meeting to adopt, then are we saying that furthermore in this year's town meeting warrant, the article would have to specify which parts of the act, which is not yet the law?
No, the idea is to have that generic article. I've done this in other communities, so I know it works. You have a generic article, and then in the lead up to town meeting, you work with advisory. And if there's going to be, like, let's say you decide you do want to increase the meals tax, that requires a vote at town meeting. The motion that would be made by advisory would be to accept the statute and increase the meals tax to 1%, or from 0.75 to 1.00. That needs a town meeting vote. If we don't have that article on the warrant, and yet the advisory committee thinks it's a good idea, and we all think it's a good idea, we have to wait until next year's annual town meeting unless we call a special. But the cost of calling a special might exceed the amount of revenue generated by that particular item. So it's just a way of keeping our options open. You can always pass over the article. If you don't like what they've done, or they haven't passed it yet, they're still fighting over it, you can pass over the article. But if you don't have the article, you're out of the ballgame.
All right, so let me do this. I'm going to add a little bit of structure to this here. Seems like we kind of have two things going on here. We have to open the warrant to possibly remove sign bylaw and potentially add Paul's bylaw and close it. We also have the 3 starred articles that Jeremy has outlined for us in our background material here. Let's start with continuing. Does anyone want to continue discussion about Paul's item here? What I'm going to recommend is Diane, put you on the spot there, Diane. How does our February 20th agenda look?
It's pretty open.
Do you want to do a standalone to look at this so we can vet it? Let me ask you, does anyone have any questions or concerns? Does anyone think they know Paul's, I call it Paul's, but you know what I'm talking about, Paul's item here? How do people feel about that, their knowledge of it? Do we want to continue it onto the 20th, have a standalone kind of discussion about it? Or how do we think we can just wrap it up into this warrant discussion right now?
Yeah, I feel uncomfortable with my level of knowledge.
I feel uncomfortable with Steve's now. No, and my level.
Aaron, how do you feel?
I agree. I'd like to have time to read it all and understand it all.
Yeah, I think it probably is a good thing, Paul. I'm not doubting that, but I think this is a general just uncertainty here, or whatever. Okay, so let me just go to it and put the sign thing on hold because maybe the fact that does anyone want to talk? I'm going to go to the Jeremy Start articles about the Sherborn 1858 townhouse article. There's some concern there where there wasn't a time frame listed into it. Do we want to discuss that or not discuss that? And we don't have to. I just want to make sure that.
I have a question. can I ask a question, or Steve
Yeah, please.
spoke up first?
We
though?
might have the same question.
I think this is only, it's a narrow thing. It's related to them having to make a capital expenditure is what I believe. We're extending it because the life of the asset would be longer than a lease term. Is that correct, Jeremy?
That's correct, right? And the prior town meeting vote had a specific term
Yeah.
number, which town council believes needs to be, revoted at town meeting.
Yeah, but it's essentially something we'd already voted on.
Correct, yeah.
Did.
So it's, I guess the question is just how best to word the article. Do you leave it open-ended that it could be extended indefinitely by act of the select board, or would there be any sort of limit on the amount of the extension?
Wasn't there a specific number of years that was needed? It wasn't, I mean, it was a small number, like 3 years or something, right?
That's my exact recollection.
3 years for their current capital projects, but other capital projects could come up that this same question arises. And if the town meeting article, overly constrains the board, then you may not have the flexibility to adjust in the future.
Yeah, but I see a negative, which is if people view this as too general, they may not vote for the article, or if they're giving us too much flexibility. You know what I'm saying?
So
In other words, how do I know to vote on this? You don't even say how long the extension we're voting. You know what I mean? They may
Correct.
feel it's too
Yeah.
general.
Yeah,
The
I think we have to put the number
council-
of years in, and then, I think the advisory report should have an explanation of exactly what is this, because a lot of people are going to remember, like, wait, didn't we just extend the lease by 20 years, like, 5 years ago or something? And so why are we, what's happening here? And so I think there needs to be a good explanation, and it's like, it's finite, it's defined, it's for a specific reason, and if we support the reason, then we support the extension.
So current council's opinion is that town meeting action was not required to authorize the select board to enter this lease in the first place. However, because one had happened that had a specific term length,
Yeah.
that needed to be corrected. So if there hadn't been a prior town meeting action on this with a term specific, we wouldn't be talking about this.
Will this nullify that term then? This article, if it's not defined, will it kind of override that the term in the previous?
Correct. It essentially corrects that.
So then it becomes a philosophical question of should a lease for the community center, the townhouse, should that be something that always runs through town meeting, or should that be something that the select board can enter into on our own?
Yeah, it's kind of a policy decision in that town council believes you're not
I
legally.
tend to be give the power to town meeting kind of a person.
You
but-
can do both. You can give us a range. So you could say to authorize the select board to increase up to 5 years. Let's say, I'm just making up the number. We only need 3 here, so we only do 3. But we have 2 more in case we want to do something, or they needed to do something and they had another project. Then we can amend the lease to give them that incentive to do that additional capital expenditure. So you could have a range.
Do we know, are there additional specific capital projects they've identified that might require an extension beyond 3 years?
Not aware, but it certainly, that generally happens with buildings, they generally need ongoing work, so it's likely to happen again in the future. The specifics, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we get some specifics from the on-site insight reports. They give us a capital plan for a building.
Do they do the townhouse? Oh.
They do an engineering review of the operations and maintenance. They advise on things we should be maintaining better, but also on capital that will eventually, like age of the roof or age of the HVAC, whatever. It's sort of a statistical analysis based on life expectancy of different assets.
I think one of those things Sean just put in the chat, one of those things in that report was the roof.
Yes, I know the roof is too.
So before I recognize Marianne, is the recommendation here to not be specific? I'm trying to kind of get my arms around that. And I'll be honest, I'm not as close to this as others. And I remember the whole thing with the water boiler and the legacy asset and everything else like that. Is it
Yeah.
basically, if it's non-specific here, it can be left up to the board to some degree? Or is it like similar like we used to in Framingham, we get permission to exceed 3 years because you're always welcome to 3 years? Is it something like that? Just so I kind of know a little bit, just kind of what the recommendation is.
My recommendation is you try to keep it flexible
Okay.
to accommodate future needs.
So I'm gonna ask Marianne, and then I'm gonna put on the spot Dan Sitchell after I recognize Marianne.
I had a similar question. I can't, I don't quite understand whether we're trying to set a date certain for the end of the contract or whether we're trying to keep it open. And if it sounds like some kind of hybrid, and I'm not sure how that would be, how that would be
What
crafted.
was voted on before was a date certain extension of 3 years. In other words, we had just recently signed a new 20-year contract. But then they had a capital project come up that went, 3 years beyond the end of the contract. So they didn't want to invest the money when they're only gonna recover the costs over 17 years or whatever it is.
Yeah, I understand, but every time a new capital
I
project,
know, it's an ongoing thing, but we already voted this. I think the problem is we voted this last town meeting is the complicating factor here.
Right. And that, so there's two different things, Marion. So the actual agreement between the town and the foundation is an agreement that the select board enters with the foundation. But it was previously thought that town meeting needed to authorize the select board to give them that authority.
Yeah.
That was a prior town council. Current council believes that the nature of this lease, the nature of the building, does not require that action. However, because there had been a action of town meeting that set a definite term maximum, that now that you're looking to try to go beyond that, another action at town meeting was required.
All right.
And so just to clarify, as drafted here with no specific time frame, this would allow the select board indefinitely to be able to enter into a lease extension now and in the future. So 20 years from now, when the lease is up, the select board at that time would be able to enter a new lease with the community center foundation without an active town meeting.
Correct, or another entity that, for that matter. But yes.
Right. But ultimately, this would basically make it no longer necessary for town meeting to authorize a lease of the townhouse. The select board could just always do it in the future on their own.
That's my understanding from town council. Yes.
Okay. Dan Sitchell, are you there?
I am.
So I'm just gonna ask your pulse on the thing there. What are your thoughts on, would advisory support something like this? I know you can't speak obviously for advisory, but you probably have the good ideas anyone else with something that's kind of open-ended and they see the reason why we're doing it. Because that goes to the pulse of town meeting as well. And our concern is like, if it's too open-ended, that might concern town meeting. I guess, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so right, like Pam, I have PTSD as well from last night's meeting, but that aside, we ended I think about 11:30, 11:45. But that aside, I think the open-ended one would be okay. Again, I can't speak for the committee, but I think the key would be just to explain why, and that it's just to grant flexibility to do the same thing again in 2 years if necessary. I think it would be, my sense is it would be more awkward 2 years down the road if this happens again, with people wondering, wait, why is town meeting continually voting on extending the lease? Didn't we already do this? And so I think the key would be just to explain it carefully to members of advisory and at town meeting so that there was clarity about what this was doing, and it wasn't granting some huge new power to the town or to the select board to do this. So my sense is the open-ended one would fly with advisory.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you very much, Dan. Okay. So any final thoughts on this? Do we need to put this, if we open the warrant to take away that signed bylaw, do we need to change anything with this? Damn it. Sorry. I hit my mouse pad was underneath my piece of paper here. Do we need anything to do with this? What are people's thoughts? Any final thoughts?
Just a final thought would be that if we leave it the way it is, an advisory actually decides they want something more specific, the motion that they make under the article can be more specific. You're better off with an article that is wider so that a variety of motions can be made rather than an article that's narrow and only one motion can be made.
It sounds good to me.
I
Sounds like
agree with that.
just kind of go with as it is right now, as I understand
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Next start article, public meeting recording bylaw. I remember, so Germany's put a lot of effort into this. I remember that there was a certain inertia to go this direction. I'm not sure if the same inertia exists. What are people's thoughts about the public meeting recording bylaw?
Well, I'm not as knowledgeable, but my thinking is we should maybe just, if we're gonna make it be about, apply to regulatory boards. I don't know that we need the cemetery commission to record their meetings or you know what I mean?
Yeah, he made a specific list. It's advisory committee, board of
Oh, I see
assessors.
that, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so
But it's primarily the regulatory boards.
yeah, and the ones that generally may attract more public interest.
Yeah, so I withdraw my comment. It was inappropriate to do a homework.
No, and I'll recognize Marianne after I say that we may actually want cemetery commission to record their meeting.
Yeah. Okay, my turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Along those lines, this is just wordsmithing, but I would take D and put it right up in the front because it's easy to miss. Oh yeah, it only applies to regulatory boards.
Oh yeah.
I would make D actually A and put that right up front so
I
people
agree with that.
know what this is about right away. And maybe name shall apply to the following regulatory boards, committees, and commissions.
Yep, I agree with that.
I wouldn't specify regulatory though, because not all of these are regulatory.
Right. You're right.
So
Okay.
those listed in there. I agree with putting it A. I do. So I have a question now that I'm looking. I've read it quickly before, but recording should not be edited.
Yeah, that's my point. I was gonna raise that too.
Yeah, I know I think it was state Supreme Court said you can't like kick someone out for profanity or something like that. That's freedom of speech or protected speech, blah blah blah. But there's always gonna be some reason. I don't want to lock ourselves down. I think
I know Rick Sherwood well. They edit them all the time. That's what Dover Sherwood Cable TV does. Like if there's a gap, like if there's a 2-minute gap because something happened or whatever, they do have to edit it so that it's not glitchy when it gets broadcast.
maybe not edited for content or.
No, they're just correcting, flaws in the recording or things like that.
What I'm trying to say here is, do we edit input on E? Do we simply say like not edited for content, something like that, so people get the content, not the content is not removed, like the actual like dialogue decisions, things like that.
It's a good change.
Yeah, maybe do something like that, or maybe, I mean, you know what? Here's the only issue I can see in this being in trouble. Not this, but if someone edits it, a chair says something that they don't like, and they have the ability to edit something, and they edit it out. That's what we're trying to avoid here. That's a nightmare scenario, right?
Yeah.
Someone actually says something that they want to avoid. They have power. The only thing I can think of is that no board members have any power to edit anything, and maybe it all goes to like one type of webmaster or something like that. And or we simply say this, shall not be edited for content, something like that. Maybe.
My concern is how easily can that be checked or litigated after the fact, right? Because if you edit, you cut out a gap, like maybe you decide, oh, let's take a 10-minute break, and Diane doesn't stop the recording, so now that's in the video, and it's like, okay, now we're not allowed to cut that out, right? But if you do cut that out, now we do know somebody watching the video can tell that a cut happened, right? But you can't tell what was cut out, right? So you could cut out content and then claim that you didn't. And I don't know that after the fact that is something that can be, litigated or proven. So that's the challenge, right? Of why that should be an all or nothing thing, I
Unless
guess.
you save the raw footage, unless some places save raw footage.
I mean, I think Zoom itself would be the only place that has the raw footage, and I don't know if Zoom has a policy on retaining raw footage of meetings. I don't know, Jeremy,
Let
if
me
you know.
ask a question now. So I'm thinking we need to talk to Mike Klein at Dover Sherborn Cable, because there's two issues here. What I described, I just realized, is not the recording, it's the airing of it. In other words, when this is available subsequently for people to view it, the recording could be kept intact, but what's broadcast could be edited. Do you know what I'm saying? In other words, you would keep the preserved documentation of what happened, but if there's a 3-minute gap for some reason, you don't want that to be what's broadcast over Verizon. So it could be that the word recording is important and what we broadcast is different than what's recorded.
You
in
could
some
say
some limited circumstances. You know what I'm trying to say?
I do, but I also want to rein it back into like Steven's thing. He had a question about the raw footage because I think that might go into your answer your question there or your point what you're trying to make there about
Yeah.
broadcast being different. There's broadcast, but really I think what matters is what you play on YouTube, and that's what matters.
Yes.
Jeremy, do you know is there any like preservation of raw footage? When we make these things before they're edited.
Yeah, so if the meeting was recorded using Zoom, that is kept. I think it's only limited by the plan that we have and the size of the files. They can be kept for as long as we'd like. And they can also be downloaded and saved.
Okay.
Yeah.
The raw
But they're
footage.
not broadcasting Zoom. They convert the Zoom to whatever they need to do to broadcast it.
So you could say for E, the original recording shall not be edited. Because
Yeah.
then, it could be edited for TV or something else.
Yeah.
But then we would have to figure out with archiving, right? So who owns and keeps the copy of that video? It says the unedited recording shall be archived with the town and shall be made available on the town's website. I'm not sure that we can fully abide by that. And then I feel like there should be a clause also saying for how long do the videos have to be archived, right? Or is it for all time in the future, every single meeting has to be kept forever, and that's going to be a major IT problem probably for the town, especially if we're physically archiving it in a hard drive somewhere.
Zoom is the Zoom platform saves them.
Let me rein it back in here a little bit. I don't think it's as big of an issue. So you talk because the issue we're worried about is someone pleases. Someone does something nefarious. Someone edits something out. If you want, we can archive for like 3 years or whatever the statute of limitations is, something like that. If you don't get caught in 3 years, fine. You edit out content in some fashion there. I think it's not quite because think about it, a lot of these committees have had nothing but minutes up until like recently. Do you know what I mean? So it's already such a much higher level than it's been before. And we're talking about a pretty worst case scenario. We're talking about policing a pretty worst case scenario. I still like editing for content. You take out the big gaps, and I'm just thinking more to myself, what if someone puts an inappropriate picture up here? We really going to broadcast that? We're going to say, oh, we can't edit that out. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It seems like,
Yeah. But I also think that we need to be very careful with the wording here, right? Because this now becomes public record. And so 8 years down the line, somebody may make a public records request for a whatever Board of Assessors meeting from 7 years prior. And if we don't have it, and our bylaw says that you have to, that's probably a problem, right?
Yeah, but I think there are already public records and that we're creating them already. So I'm not sure the nature of making this bylaw doesn't make them a public record. I think because they exist now, they are a matter of record.
That's right. That's how I understand as well,
For
actually.
my information, the recordings on Zoom are available on YouTube somewhere in the long series of
Those are edited versions.
not in order on YouTube, but never mind, they're there somewhere. But it says shall be available on the town's website. Is that true? We don't
I'm
have
not
it.
sure we would want to do that. I mean, maybe there's a difference between what's archived and stored, the raw footage, and then, what's broadcast could be, the edited version that Dover Sherborn TV edits and puts up on YouTube and reruns. But maybe we don't have the raw footage on the website, but it's available should somebody inquire.
Yeah.
All right. What do I gotta do to get us to a resolution here? I still like editing for content. I do. I think we're such worlds above where we were just a few years ago. I told you I was at a public meeting since COVID, so probably been like 2 years ago, whatever, where the someone actually said, let's hold the next one live so it's not recorded because I want to say certain things aren't recorded. And also I think at this point we're so much worlds where we were better than we were. But I do want to bring this to full circle here. What's our general thoughts on this article, be it that wording or anything else about it? Do we want to revisit it or do we want to resolve it right now?
Can I make a comment?
Yep.
There's a whole handbook on disposing of public records that have been issued by the Secretary of State's office. So public records only need to be kept in accordance with that guidelines. And there's a lot of stuff that municipalities can throw out, and they don't because they don't take the time to read the handbook that lists the time for retention. I don't see that that's an issue. As far as editing for content, I think that's a good change. It's just that there's a history in this nation of, like Richard Nixon when he was a 19-minute gap there.
Yeah. What was the woman's name? I can't think of the woman's name now.
And there also is technology that's been in litigation. There is technology that can tell whether or not something has been edited or not. So the technology exists if you want to hire one of those forensic guys to do it. Not that we'd want to do that, but I'm just answering some questions that came up during the discussion.
No, I get that. I mean, my thoughts on it. And, thoughts about, for example, we talk about this profanity use. Can you edit, can you not? Is it protected speech? Intent, all that goes through there. And then if there is profanity, believe it or not, you can actually mark it on YouTube as actually adult restricted. You do that, and it's actually not fully available to everyone. And I don't know. It just gets to, I like the ability to edit a little bit. I don't think it's used for nefarious purposes. The only thing I remember about Watergate is the name of the whistleblower. And if I said it, this whole place would be edited right now. So, all right. Anything else on this?
Well, before we leave this article, before everybody else is done.
Yeah.
The article right above it, the Affordable Housing Covenant and Restriction.
Yep.
Is an exact duplicate.
Yeah, that's an error, Paul. Thank you. We'll make sure there's only one item of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of them needs to be eliminated.
Yes. Thank you.
The other one is located right above the Sherborn 1858 townhouse that we were looking at before. Exact same word.
Can I make a suggestion, Eric, since you were asking what should we do?
Yep.
Instead of making an entire agenda item in another meeting, I would say, I think mostly this is fine. I would ask maybe Jeremy if you can just alter the wording a little bit, where the recording shall not be edited for content. And then I guess just brainstorm some way to word F in such a way where it is clear that the unedited version is being archived in a particular way and is made available in a particular way. But I don't believe that us making the unedited recording from Zoom actually available on the town's website is likely to happen, right? Unless you think that we can. But so just word that in such a way where essentially it's like, yes, the recording will be available upon request, to whoever is actually keeping it, whether it's the town clerk or whoever.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I do think talking to Mike Klein, Jeremy, if you have a chance, because they take the Zoom recording and then they make the broadcast, and they're the ones that put it on YouTube.
Yep.
He might be able to come up with some wording for what they do, because they do the same for Dover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that we actually archive the raw footage that's provided to them. Is
Yes.
what we keep available per this bylaw, but that Dover Sherborn TV continues to do what they do to make it an arable piece of video
Yes.
shown. But if somebody needs the raw footage, it's still available.
And I think our Zoom account, I can't remember, but I think it gets deleted after 3 years. But so we could maybe pay an added fee for our professional Zoom license to have it stored not on a town,
Yeah.
hard drive, but on a Zoom account.
I guess we should also find out, to Paul's point, what the public records law states as to how long we are
Yeah.
required to keep something. So I wouldn't want to pay for archiving past what we are legally required to do,
Exactly.
good.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what I'm
I have
saying. I
a
don't want to hold the raw footage in perpetuity if I don't have to, be honest with you. That's going to get tough and unnecessary.
Jeremy, I have a question for you. Those Dover Sherburne edited YouTube videos, does the town in any place archive those, the YouTube videos? Because those could be, easily archived and put in a place in the town where if people want to, watch a meeting of a particular date, and it's not on YouTube forever, and if it was 4 years ago, you're not going to find it on YouTube. So it might be good to have a way for the town to archive those videos.
Yeah, I'd have to look at that. I don't think there's any formal process currently, Marion. So
I mean, does the board think that would be a good idea to have, at least for the last, like 5 years or something?
Wait,
Not,
are we sure they don't stay on YouTube?
well, if they do stay on YouTube, they're impossible to find after a while because
I will say that there's very poor search function. So not always named the same. It's not us even. Look at the schools,
Yeah.
not consistently named. So I'll do a control search function, and it's very, very important that you kind of have to know the date. And the date's always on it, but you have to look close to the date. So sometimes the date's on the title, sometimes it's not on the title. And it's done different ways on the title, so you can't always search the same way there. So if you know the date, you have to go back, sort by date, and look for like whatever, might be 20 videos created that week and see what's uploaded. You
I
are
know exactly. So, I mean, that's my point. If someone has a specific question about a meeting that was recorded, it was on YouTube 3 years ago, they can't find it. Is there any way the town can, do they have any alternative other than using YouTube?
yeah, that's something I can ask Mike Klein.
Yeah, I think Mike Klein keeps, because they basically they create it and then upload it.
Yeah. So
I'm sure they have it somewhere, but people don't have access and they don't know how to get access.
No, but it could be what Steven said earlier, that we could, if someone submits a public information request, we can produce it. Doesn't mean we have to have it, sitting in front of town hall in a box. We can.
Oh, no, but I mean, if someone just wants to know, they're not going to go and make a big public information request. They just say, I have a note from 3 years ago. How can I find this video?
Yeah. I think Dover Sherborn Cable TV can do that.
Likely. I can find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to add 4F when you read, or no, you might want to put a time limit on it just to be safe. I don't know if you get much pushback of RAWs being only held like 3 years or something like that. The perpetuity obligations of perpetuity concern me a little bit. They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I'll think there may be in the guidance that Paul suggested or mentioned that there might be actually a state requirement for that. So whatever that is will be the default.
Okay, I think we discussed that one well enough and kind of keep things moving. Next one down, town meeting quorum. I support 50. People have other numbers they're comfortable with, that's fine.
I was surprised at the number of towns that have 0, and it makes me kind of in favor of 0.
It works.
I mean, in a way, 0 and 50 are the same number, because we got 50 people between all the committees and boards that are there anyway,
But zero, what Paul's going to say, because him and I have agreed about this for 7 years now, is when it's like 5 or 0, then more people show up because they're worried about 5 people like setting zoning in town and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I would second them. If you made a motion for 50, I would second it, or I'll make the motion at 50 if you haven't said it.
Second.
What's Mary, do you have any thoughts between 0 or 50?
No, I don't. But I would say 50 rather than 0. 0 is just so pessimistic.
I kind of like 0, actually, to be honest, because the motivation is that more people show up. That's kind of the whole thing. 50 still might not scare people enough. But
yeah,
But
because
zero,
again, it's like
zero is meaningless, really. So
it is. It means
I think 0 just means that town meeting automatically happens when the date has been set.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to make it.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. I'd like to make it 12.5. Actually,
0.5.
12 and a half.
Is it over under?
Somebody can show up, but they don't have to be awake.
But meeting's always going to happen because, like I said, you're going to have 50 people between the select board and advisory and all the.
But if you're confident that it's always going to happen, then just make it 0. Make it actually 0.
No, I
I
made a motion. You can vote. I did.
I second the motion. I vote for 50. It means something. At least 0 is just a joke.
Paul, well, you could do 20. You could do 10. Seriously, the one I can't remember the town. They made it like 10 or something like that, and more people show up. Paul, what are your thoughts? I think you've shared similar.
I've seconded the motion for 50 before Marion did. So.
What are your thoughts if it was lower? I mean, would you support anything lower, or what do you just?
Yes, well, I'm in towns where there's no quorum requirement. It's not that the quorum is 0; it's just no quorum requirement. So when you schedule a town meeting, the agony that we go through in towns with quorums, we sit around for hours hoping that we can get to that number, and it's a complete waste of the voters' time, and it actually discourages voters from going to town meeting. Because you sit through one of those things, a voter said that's like watching paint dry. You're sitting around, there's no discussion, nothing can happen because you're waiting for that magic number.
Yeah. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
like the idea that if you have a quorum number, let's say that there's a particular year that for whatever reason only 110 people show up, right? But then they were only there for that one article that was real interesting in the middle, and then they all leave. And now we're approaching the end of the town meeting, and it kind of seems like there might not be 50 people in the meeting hall anymore. And then somebody calls a quorum count, and then now you've just screwed yourself. So with no quorum, that's not a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Any support for eliminating the quorum?
I mean, I'm in. I mean, there's a motion and a second, so I think you have to vote it unless Jeff wants to retract that. But
I'm not in favor of 0. I won't vote for 0. So, but
for no quorum, essentially.
Yes.
0 is a joke, but no quorum, right? Obviously, that's why I said 12.5 because it's a number you can't attain, like 0 can't actually attain.
I made a motion. We can vote it down, and someone else can make another motion.
So the reason why I'm supporting and seconding the 50 is that I think for Sherborn, it's too big a change to go from 100 to 0.
Yeah.
That it should be done incrementally. So if we go to 50 this year, we see how it goes. People will get comfortable with it. And then we can have this discussion a year or two from now.
Wait, but haven't we already been setting the quorum lower during this time period since COVID? Like, what has it been 50 anyways?
I want to say the year we met in the garage, we made it 25. I believe. Remember we had the one year where we had that weird town meeting.
So the town's already had multiple years to get accustomed to it.
Yeah.
So now we'll just drop it down a little more.
Well, Marion, you're kind of tiebreaker. Do you want 50 or less? Just call it, then I'll collect the vote after that.
Calling 50 just to get it
you're
over
the
with.
tiebreaker, I think. Yep. All right. All in favor? Stephen.
Nay.
Jeff.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Marion.
Aye.
I'm just gonna side with Stephen and say nay, but I think fine either way. And that is ironically the second to last
I'm
article
sure
at
that
this
this
town meeting. So,
recording is kept for 25 years.
but that was ironically the second to last article listed here. So if we don't get a quorum to lower the quorum, there's gonna be a very ironic there.
It's much ado about nothing
Now, I have a
because
question. We talked before, and I'm gonna bring this before the board again. I thought we weren't gonna do citizen petitions last. I've been saying that like once a month for 8 months now.
Yeah, well, I guess that's another thing before you close out this item. One, you need to address the planning board sign article, but
That's right,
two, if you have any desire to order these in any way, definitely let me know.
I do, but I can't think of it right now. I definitely do not want the citizen petition to be last, like they always are. And we always fight quorums. And
I think people are going to have a lot of opinions about town clerk elected to appointed.
yeah, make that one last.
Make that last. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like
'cause-
making the turf field vote last.
Yeah, there's a
Right?
I know.
there's always a group of people in town who always want to speak out against making any elected position appointed.
I have an edit on that article.
Yeah,
Where it says select board. I'd like it to say select board for town clerk.
Yeah.
Because the town clerk told me she supported it.
Yeah.
And if she supported it, I think it would make a huge difference to have both the select board and town clerk listed as in favor of this article, as opposed to just being the select board. Because if you're a citizen who's not active in the community and you read this, you think, oh my God, the select board is trying to overthrow the town clerk, expand, take over Greenland, whatever. So
Agreed.
it's better to say select board and town clerk.
Agreed. And actually, when Jackie saw this draft, she mentioned that. So we will honor your request and Jackie's request.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. So any motions relative to the warrant and opening said warrant?
I move to open the warrant.
Yeah, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Stephen,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
I might as well. Okay, now what do we want to change in this? I'll make a motion of what to change in the warrant.
Yes, could I make a motion to delete the duplicate article, Woodhaven elderly housing, and to drop the sign bylaw. But none of these are amended, so it's hard to. I'll just say sign bylaw.
Yeah, that's fine. And how about the movement of the clerk bylaw about making the clerk?
Oh, yes. Move the article on town clerk's position to the end of the warrant.
Okay, do I have a second or any other friendly amendments to that?
Yeah, I would second that. I didn't follow it completely, but I second it.
Sounded good to me. It sounded good.
Yeah, I know it's right.
Okay, all in favor, Stephen?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Marion?
Aye.
I might as well. Motion to close the warrant?
Move to close the warrant.
Second.
Second, all in favor, Stephen?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Marion?
Aye.
I might as well. Okay, did I miss anything relative to this agenda item?
I think you covered it all, at least from my perspective. Thanks.
Yep, and we'll analyze that, but we'll do a greater dive into that recent legislation in 2 weeks. Okay, so moving on. Capital and operating budgets. That won't be a long discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I wanted to bring this back, wanted to update the select board as far as the status of the overall budget request for FY26, and also to give you a little more detail on the select board budgets.
Okay.
And also to give you a summary of the capital budgets and the capital items and where they stand and with the various boards and committees. So in your packet, there's a presentation. I'm just going to share that and go through a couple of slides fairly quickly up front to get to some of the meat. So this slide here just is the summary. You've seen this slide before, but it's updated to show the overall budget request by all the budget makers and where we currently stand. the two items for elementary school and the regional assessment, actually, the version 2.0 of this from the schools was released a day or two ago. So both of those are slightly less than what's shown on the screen here. But
Are you sharing your screen right now? Because I don't see a
yeah,
screen share.
I see it.
I do
Oh,
see it.
shoot.
I see
Darn
it.
Why don't I see it? Okay, no, just continue on. Thank you.
sure. So both of those budget lines for the schools will be slightly less if the school committees do adopt their version 2.0. But they're not drastically different. So overall, this is what the overall budget request shows. It's a 3.79% increase as currently submitted and is under review by advisory. Update here shows that budget, overall budget, would have a net impact of 3.64% on the overall property tax levy. So in aggregate, property taxes would be affected by 3.64%. One of the updates here that's changed since the last time you saw this was that we have some more definitive state aid numbers, at least by House 1, which is kind of the original, the initial filing of the state budget. It actually has a slightly larger increase than we forecasted originally for local unrestricted aid. We had forecast 2%. It currently looks like 3%, but that can change as the state budget develops. But we did update the state aid number. It's a little more favorable, but not a huge impact on the overall picture. Here's a summary of that. We talked about the excess levy capacity earlier. Here's a summary of that calculation and what this proposed budget would look like. Because this does have, this budget does leave excess capacity. It's quote a balanced budget in that it doesn't require an operating override to fund. And that excess levy capacity, that 629,000, that's the number we've been watching, and that trend has been going down, meaning that your excess levy capacity has been kind of year over year has been decreasing as a result of your budgets. And once that gets to zero, then your budget year over year would be confined to 2.5% plus new growth, or an operating override would be needed. Share of where your budget goes, what your town budget pays for. This has not changed at all drastically from the last time you've seen it. A little more detail on the expenses and what they entail. On the town government side, here's a breakout of the increase of 4.9% is tied to salaries and expenses, and you can see the overall numbers there. One thing I wanted to point out on this slide is the health insurance number, which we've been told to forecast a rate increase of 10%. This week, now they're suggesting that we forecast an 11% increase. So Deb did some calculations and did an inventory of employees that take health insurance. So we've been able to do some refinement of the forecast for the numbers of folks that are taking health insurance and has a little buffer. And so we sharpen our pencils by way of sort of lessening the impact of that 10% rate increase, so that it was only 6.2% increase of a budget impact. However, that may be a little bit larger when we get the new numbers from Maya next week. They're also saying that we should be forecasting for the next several years increases on the 8 to 10 or more % increase on health insurance, which kind of leads us to, I think it would be probably a good idea if the select board kind of reinvigorate. There was an insurance advisory committee that was formed some years ago that helped kind of look at with employees and folks in the field, help look at what the current offerings are and how the town may be able to, modify the plan and work within collective bargaining agreements and so forth to kind of find a win-win. So I think I'd strongly recommend that the select board invigorate that committee again. Probably too late to impact FY26. However, it could help inform future budget years. And this slide here, you had police, fire, public works, and IT present their budgets to you at your last meeting. Those were sort of the bigger budgets that roll up under the select board, and the ones that are generally not in guidance from advisory. But here's a summary of all of the select board, quote, select board budgets, and whether they meet advisory's guidance, and if they don't, the rationale. You can see most of the budgets that typically roll up under the select board do meet advisory's guidance. And the ones that don't, you have had discussions with or are generally aware of that situation. But I wanted to give you this summary and see if there was any, beyond the budgets that you had at your last meeting, if you wanted to see any of the detail at any of your future meetings for any of these budgets, or if you had any questions now.
And that's a great summary. And I like this specific page because it does kind of call it out versus a huge table we look at every year where it's like, past 3 years and this, that, and that's great analysis. But here's like just boom, and the better, executive summaries I've seen on something like that.
Can I ask one question, Eric?
Yeah, go ahead.
We show a negative 15,000 for the shared sustainability, but it's a positive amount for the shared veteran service. Were we not paying as much for our previous veterans agent, or how could it be more if we're sharing?
That's correct. So the previous veterans agent received I think she received a $500 stipend per year, and many years she didn't take it.
She was basically volunteering.
She was basically volunteering. Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Jeremy, could you remind us, is the emergency dispatch that we're now paying for after having gotten it free for a few years, is that going to be the amount basically year over year? This is something we have to build in going forward.
It's going to go even higher than that, actually.
Yeah, so this is it's phased in, and according to the agreement, Marion, it's phased in, and this is the first year that Sherborn would need to pay a portion of the assessment.
Yeah.
This 81,000 is essentially 1/4 of the full annual assessment.
Ooh.
So over the next, I believe, 3 fiscal years, there's a phase in where Sherborn would need to pay the full amount, which is 360,000.
And then from beyond 3 years, what will it be?
It may be 360,000 going forward.
Yeah. Okay.
Or could be modified by a subsequent agreement with Holbrook.
Right.
The chiefs did, I mean, at your last meeting, the chiefs did also talk about how they're pursuing and advocating through state 911 to get sort of more longer term grants to help offset these assessments.
Yeah.
But there's other economic forces. In other words, if Holbrook gets 5 more towns to sign up, the unit cost per town could go down. So
right.
There's other factors there, but the full number for Holbrook is less than what we were paying for dispatch when we were doing it in-house.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know that.
Still saving money versus having no ability to hire dispatchers, so using police on overtime to cover the dispatch shift is what we were doing.
Right. And I know you don't have education here on this slide, but in the education budget, of course, the big hit is the Tri-County assessment for their construction. And how many years does that go on? That is, right now it's because they're assessing us part of the construction cost for the new school. But do we know how long that is going to be a high assessment?
Yes. So this summary here, Marion, was for the purpose of for the select board to, hopefully in advance of the advisory public hearing, which is scheduled for March 22nd. And I believe it's going to be hybrid, where the select board has traditionally taken a stance or voted in favor of the select board budgets. So this summary is for that.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Okay.
But I'm happy to answer that question about the regional tech school. So that assessment is a combination of enrollment and the assessment for the debt service for the new building. So the enrollment number can vary depending on how many students Sherborn has at the school.
Right.
But that debt service is going to be a consistent annual assessment for the life of the debt, which is likely 30 years.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah.
answers my question. Thanks. That's good.
And the one nuance to the enrollment, though, is we always pay a minimum of 5 students.
Right. I'm aware of
I
that.
believe we have 3 right now. I'm not positive.
So we're getting our money's worth finally.
More so. We got 2 more free spots.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe the enrollment has actually gone up, Jeff. It may be 5 or 6, so we might be,
Are there now? I only knew of 3.
yeah, but at least for next year.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Remember, John Dowse, I think, is still chair of the building committee for that new school.
Yeah, he sits on the regional school committee.
Yeah, but he's on the construction committee too, I believe both.
I think he is. I don't know if he's chair, but I know he's on the construction committee.
Yeah, he
He might
is.
be chair, but I'm not sure.
Every time I go to buy something at the orchard, I get the update.
They do.
It's
Absolutely.
always
Anyway,
very-
I think I love this I love this update. This is really well laid out, Jeremy. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, anything else on the board? All right.
And then the last thing here tonight, Dan has his hand up, but I think I think he's probably going to mention that at some point he'd like the board to take a vote prior to the hearing, but. Dan, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, good. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. I was going to just suggest that I think the public hearing, for a variety of reasons, is likely to go on for it's likely to be a long public hearing. There's going to be a lot that I think people are going to want to talk about. So if it were possible for the select board to vote on its budgets prior to that, I think it would facilitate kind of getting through that day. I was also going to offer, and I know this is outside of the purview of select board budgets, but just one little extra bit of color on school budgets. The numbers that Jeremy showed for Pine Hill and for the region actually looked like, pretty modest increases this year compared to what we've seen last year. I just wanted to flag that those reflect one-time effects that are holding down growth rates this year, but are not likely to be repeated. So for example, the middle school, built 20 years ago. The last debt service payment for that is in FY25. So a significant chunk of debt service goes from hundreds of thousands of dollars in fiscal 25 to 0 in fiscal 26, holds down those growth rates. Excluding debt service, the growth rates for the regional school is significantly higher than what's shown here. And there are some similar kinds of things, not debt related, but happening at Pine Hill. So just a heads up, thinking about that excess levy capacity chart, that really great chart that Jeremy showed. Next year we're going to get likely a much bigger and harder to absorb hit from the school. So just a little bit of color there, because these numbers look good, but don't think that these kinds of growth rates are likely to be repeated in the next couple of years.
Now, I will say that when we talk about levy capacity, it's based on the rule of like 6%, because we exempt all of our debt service, exempt from 2.5. So it's kind of a weird concept what you call levy capacity.
Right.
We almost have endless capacity because we exempted it.
Right.
And that's good information. Thank you, Dan. So here's a question. Remind me, when's the hearing? When's the advisor's hearing?
March 22nd, Saturday.
All right. What are people's thoughts on voting
You
for
don't
this?
necessarily need to vote this tonight. We could bring it back, but we just wanted to get it on your radar.
Let's maybe put on as soon as our next meeting on the 20th, especially if we have a little bit of capacity there. Maybe we actually make the vote, unless we think last minute things are going to pop up. It might be nice to kind of wrap this together while it's fresh in our brains. Because if we don't see it again for 4 weeks, we might just be asking the same questions I think we've already asked before.
Okay.
Okay, going to capital.
And then, yeah, and the last thing I wanted to leave you with was just an update on the capital budget requests. This is a summary here of all the FY26 capital requests. There's a lot of them. They have, a number of these have been discussed at the capital budget committee, and have been voted favorably at the advisory committee, not advisory, at the capital budget committee. Those being the resurfacing of the classroom floors, the police cruisers, the ambulance, and the CPR assist device, all of the public works items, the IT items, the town hall meeting room furnishings, the zone bylaw review. Those have all received favorable votes by the capital budget committee. They have also discussed all of the other items, but have not taken a stand. Those being the turf field and track replacement for the regional schools, the Jameson pickleball and tennis court, the library space fit out for the Sherborn History Center, and a new request that came in after they started their process was from the Board of Assessors for a CAMA system, a computer-aided mass appraisal system. They have yet to discuss that.
Okay.
And
Paul, you got
if there's any of these projects that you'd like to have the proponents come before you're at a meeting to get more information, let me know.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add one thing. I'm working on philanthropic funding right now for the History Center.
Oh, good.
Great.
That'd be huge. Paul, you have your hand raised. I want to recognize you.
Yes, this item turf field / track. I've been through now a number of battles in other communities about the use of turf fields. And there are a number of options, but the ones that are commonly used are quite dangerous and toxic to groundwater and to the environment. They contain PFAS, chemicals, and all kinds of things. They're made out of old tires, and that it's too hard for me to articulate the names of all the chemicals involved. But where we're on well water, and Dover is basically on well water, the wrong turf field is a disaster. A turf field that's made out of wood chips or other materials that are available, they cost more. But at the end of the day, we got to protect our environment, and we have to protect our groundwater. So I'm flagging this as an issue, not because I don't think we ought to have a track, not because I don't think we should not have a good field, but that how this is administered. I'm hoping that the advisory committee is very strict about what is going to actually be built.
All right, so let me do this. I'm going to recognize Dan in a second here.
Yeah. There is a presentation for everyone's awareness. The regional school committee is hosting also the advisory committee and the capital budget committee next Wednesday, February 12th, where the school department will give a presentation on this project. So that might be of interest to folks. Where a lot more detail will likely be shared by the school department as far as their proposed project.
Yeah, Jeremy or Diane, post a meeting for the select board that night. We'll see who shows up.
Okay.
We'll do it. And then we'll call the order if we have to, or whatever else it is we have to do there.
Do you know, are they doing that with a remote attendance option? Because typically regional school is in person only.
Maybe in person. Dan, do you recall?
So the meeting is in person. I think it's going to be live streamed on DSC TV, but I don't think they're going to have a Zoom option for the whole thing, for participation. And the presentation on the turf field is scheduled for 6:30. We're going to meet, advisory is going to meet with the Pine Hill School Committee at 5:30. And then after that presentation, we're going to meet with the regional school committee, but the 6:30 is the scheduled time for the turf field presentation.
And that is it in the middle school library?
Yes. And I just sent in an agenda to post, so advisory, by tomorrow we'll have posted a meeting that has some of those details.
One thing I was going to add was a historical perspective, Eric, just so people know the turf field was put in, I think, in 2008, and it was donated by Roger Marino from EMC.
Okay.
So the boosters basically got a free turf field is how it got installed in the first place.
Yeah. So just real quick, are people interested in this board of attending that meeting? Do you want to post a meeting? Just to get the lowdown, Paul can ask us PFAS questions. The other alternative is we can actually request a proponent come here and do a presentation as well. But I think a minimum both would probably be beneficial to see what everyone else is seeing and see it kind of on their presentation.
What was the night again? I forget what night it was.
Wednesday at 12th, I said?
Yes.
What's the calendar date?
Wednesday.
Oh,
Wednesday,
it's
February 12th.
February
in the
12th.
middle, in the evening?
Yes, 6:30 is the start.
We'll probably
Yeah,
post our meeting for like 6:15. We'll meet, call to order, do that.
Yeah, I probably can't attend due to work.
Okay.
I've got the
Yeah,
same-
I don't think I can. I don't think I can attend in person either. Do we know the middle school library? I think doesn't have even the capability to host a meeting as a hybrid, right? Just
Correct.
yeah.
All right. Don't post a meeting. If three of you are quite sure they're not going to show up, don't bother posting a meeting. I may attend, but what'll happen is we may ask the proponent, does anyone care? Just outright ask Jeremy to ask the proponent to come here anyway and present before us.
Oh, the only issue I have is that this be done environmentally safely. So if that's not an issue, if they're going to do that, I don't need them to come to the select board. And it's really more an advisory role, the advisory committee role here, because presumably we're going to approve this expenditure subject to an override, but I'd like it to be conditioned on it satisfying environmental concerns. So like, I want to see Darrell Beardsley happy with it. I want to see that the Conservation Commission is happy with it, that the Groundwater Protection Committee is happy with it.
Okay, I definitely understand that. I will tell you that that's what is safe is sometimes subjective, and I'll recognize you too in a second. But what is safe is often subjective, and I suspect you'll have split feelings on it no matter what. If you remember, it was the second largest town meeting held in the last 15 years was about a turf field, and even then you had people saying this is safe, others saying it's not. I mean, I don't think you're gonna get the black and white answer you're looking for. I'll just kind of warn you about that. Sean?
I believe they've already said that the presentation that's half an hour, there's not going to be any public comment, therefore no questions asked. And if the select board cares at all what happens at the region, you should absolutely ask for it to be in your meeting so you can ask questions. And
Yeah.
Tom Trainer can ask questions, for groundwater protection, and everyone else can. If you cared about Laurel, you should certainly care about our school facility in Dover.
It's in Dover. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's
I agree with
yeah, I do agree with that. I didn't know that there was no comments. It's just a presentation with no questions. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think in that case we should invite them to present to us because otherwise they're only going to field questions at the public hearing and then at the town meeting.
So before I recognize Dan, I'll say there is one thing, and I actually wrote a letter. I wrote an email myself to the capital budget committee about this. I'm only going to support the finance. So let's say it's all clean and there's no contamination issue. I'm only going to support the finance of this if it's based on an actual bid. The number makes me a little concerned. The number was this low, and then we beat them up not having like enough money and stuff. And they went boom, and they put the money out of the sky. So I don't have confidence in the estimate, and I've requested that the actual town meeting authorization be based on an actual true bona fide bid, of this actual work. Dan, did you have something? Oh, not anymore.
Yeah, I was just quickly going to say, so I do expect that the schools will present that project at the public hearing. And so there will be an opportunity there for people to ask questions. That's not the same as having them come to your meeting when there's more of an opportunity for a conversation. I also think for advisory, I think that presentation of the engineer and so on and designer may be pretty tight, but that is followed by a regional school committee meeting joint with advisory and Dover warrant. And we will certainly have an opportunity in that later meeting to follow up and ask questions, even if during the presentation they keep it tight.
Okay, very good. I'll tell you though, if, and maybe we do just see their presentation advisory and vet it there, but the select, I don't think the select board's going to vote until they see a presentation. That's my vibe, and maybe you guys can override me, but because I know you were asking for our votes before the hearing, this one item you may not get our vote before the
That
hearing.
makes perfect sense to me.
Marion.
Yeah, I'd like to have them present to us before the hearing too. But I have a quick question. If anybody happens to know this about the amount they're requesting, does that amount include recycling of the old field that's going to have to be rolled up and disposed of somehow? And it's very hard to dispose of this stuff. There are very few places in the world that do it, and the only place that that claims to be able to recycle it is in Holland. It's very expensive. So I just wonder about that budget and how whether that's
I'm
included.
sure that's in it because they have to take it off site to put a new field in, so it's got to be.
Right. But typically they may take it off site and roll it up and dump it somewhere. And that to me
Yeah.
would be a deal
No,
breaker.
it's a good question.
I doubt, and someone correct me, anyone here at this meeting has that specific answer, and it sounds like something we can plant that question with them for the presentation.
Right, exactly. So that's one of the reasons I'd like to have a presentation.
All right, sounds like that's what we're gonna do. Let's try to make that happen before the advisory hearing. Maybe we can do it tonight at caucus. Okay, what else we have here? Okay, I'm
Dan's
sorry.
trying to trick us into going to 11:45 to keep up with him is what I think's happening.
Exactly. Okay, capital, sorry. I'm trying to keep myself structured here. Is there any other questions or concerns about the capital budget? Thoughts on voting on it? Maybe I'll vote on it. We'll see. I'd like to vote on the operations as soon as our next meeting. But do people mind splitting the capital and the operations? What are your general thoughts about when to actually vote on either of these budgets?
How many more meetings do we have until the public hearing?
I think we have the 20th, the 6th, and the 20th. Is that right? Dan, when's the meeting again? I knew you just said it.
Yeah, it was the 22nd is the meeting.
Second? Okay, yeah. So we have 3, and one is a short time, one with
The
the
caucus one, right? Yeah.
I almost recommend trying to vote at the next meeting if possible, everything but the turf field if you can't get it. Just because it's fresh in our heads. In past years, I have that problem. You don't meet on something for a month, and then it kind of like almost have to relearn it. We do wind up asking the same questions. But is that too soon for some people? It gives us a good month plus 2 days ahead of advisory.
Right.
That's fine with me.
Can I just modify your statement a little bit? Because like I said earlier, I'm trying to get some philanthropic funding for the History Museum, so might be deferring that one because I may not have that nailed down yet.
Yeah, if we push those 2 off, but that's no big deal. Or even do those 2 advisory, probably won't be the end of the world either.
Yeah.
But at least if we do them like, whatever, I just want to keep these other things fresh in our head. Although I'll say that graph keeps getting burned in my brain. Even Paul referenced it earlier today, the amount of free cash we got. Shaped like my 401k. Okay, so I think we are, as my favorite selectman says, we're in violent agreement.
Yes.
That we'll vote on this.
Yeah.
2 weeks from now, vet a bit more. We'll try to get at some point before advisory a presentation for us on the field there, and Jeff will continue his philanthropic efforts, which is awesome. Okay, if no one has any issues or anything else, I guess move on to a consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, Stephen?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Marion?
Aye.
I might as well. All right. Select board reports. Any select board reports? Okay. That's the one thing. We were live. We had more reports. I don't know why. Okay. 10. Town administrator updates. Jeremy.
Yeah, just a few updates for you. I guess carrying on the theme of capital, an update on the Pine Hill School HVAC project. That was a project that town meeting last spring approved. The school department has been advancing the design and is putting that actually is out to bid. So that's out on the street, advertised today. Sub bids are due March 6th. The general bid is due on March 13th. The bid is being structured as a base bid and two alternates, mainly because of potential issues with the cost of the project and the funds available. So the base bid is going to include the library area. Alternative 1 would be the cafeteria. Alternative 2 would be the auditorium. Since Pine Hill School is a Sherborn town-owned facility, the town would be the contract awarding authority. So at some point, there will be some decisions to be made as far as how or if to award the contract based on the bid numbers and the funding available. I believe we'll have 60 days that the bid will be held. So 60 days after March 13th to make a decision that does encompass town meeting should the consensus be to seek additional funds or the like. So wanted to put that on all of our radar that at some point there's a decision to be made as far as award of that contract, depending on how the bid prices come back.
Cool. Very cool.
Update on a couple projects we're doing. The ADA self-assessment, that was the grant that we received from the Commonwealth for $50,000. We've retained the services of the Collins Center at the UMass Boston. And working with your Disability Advisory Committee, we're doing a self-assessment and transition plan of all the town buildings, recreational facilities, websites. It'll incorporate some training for folks pretty broadly for anybody interested and all the various staff of the departments. There's likely to be a public survey that's going to be put out to gather some feedback to help inform that. And they're also going to focus a lot on helping us with policies so that we can set ourselves up going forward to not only have the plans, but also some policies on how to approach different things moving forward. So we had a kickoff meeting this week with the consultant, and we have to actually expend the grant funds by at the end of June. So a lot of work to be done in the next several months, and I'll give you some updates as we go. Another project is the classification compensation plan. We've retained a consultant to help with that. Capital Strategic Partners, or Jen Thompson, maybe where she's going to be helping us with that class comp plan, which will do a look at all of the town's positions, non-union positions, how they compare to the market, and give us some data there. It's going to help with the update of job descriptions and help standardize job descriptions as well, covering about 50 different positions within town, both full-time and part-time. And lastly, just an update, the Board of Health has advertised the Board of Health Administrator position. So that's advertised out on the job sites. The position is essentially similar in duties as the prior job, but they have recently posted it and are looking for candidates. Both Daryl and Steve Constantine were appointed by the Board of Health to kind of lead the screening process, and they've been seeking my assistance with that.
Cool. Yeah, okay. Any questions from the board? All right, great. Thank you very much for the update. All right, and everyone have a good evening, and Stephen, have fun with the last one.
Yeah. All right, discussion of process for appointment of interim commissioners for the North Sherborn Water and Sewer District. Who is this? Jeremy, are you taking this one?
Yeah, I can give a quick summary. So this was a discussion you started at your last meeting. Since then, a little review of what you discussed. So, there's a need to appoint an interim commission to the North Sherborn Water Sewer District. The special legislation that enables the district gives that appointing authority to the select board, with the only parameters being that the interim commission be Sherborn residents. But so you talked at your last meeting that of the 5 members, there'd be 2 select board members, 1 member of the water commission at their choosing, and then there'd be 2 at-large positions open. Those 2 at-large positions, there has been an advertisement put out, a call for volunteers. We have received some questions, and so wanted to have this conversation again to help sort of inform some of those questions. Folks have asked, about how long the interim commission may exist before it becomes permanent. Based on some recent conversations with the developer and their permit time frame and construction duration, we're thinking the interim commission may need to be in existence for about 2 to 3 years. As far as the workload, traditionally, from my experience sitting on water and sewer boards, generally they have like monthly meetings, so that would probably be similar, though that could ebb and flow based on the need. In particular, the main duty up front for the interim commission is gonna be to be a party to the intermunicipal agreements between Framingham, Sherborn, Natick, and the district. So there may need to be some ad hoc meetings to accommodate that. But in general, the workload would be, no more than 1 meeting a month, maybe even taking time off in the summers. As far as background and experience, I know folks don't necessarily need to be, water experts, but some sort of background in engineering, environmental science, finance, and accounting would be helpful. Definitely, folks that would, work well as a team, not only within the commission, but working with other town boards and committees. But it's pretty broad. More looking for folks that want to actively participate and kind of help bring the whole thing forward. And then I guess we should talk about when you want to sort of close the call for volunteers and when you might want to make the appointments. Maren, did you have any more thoughts?
When is our next select board meeting?
20th.
The 20th?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think probably we could close it before the next select board meeting. It would be nice to get this group in place. We talked about maybe the end of February, but that's quite a long time. And, I think we're getting the word out, so people have heard about it. And people have still 2 weeks to come forward before that meeting. It would be nice to make a decision at that meeting or the following one. Oh, I should ask about the posting requirements. It needs to be posted for 30 days, is it, Diana? Okay, so when was it first posted? Could you remind us?
Oh, let me see, it's right on my posting, I think, here, Mary, let me see.
Likely the day after your last meeting, so a couple weeks ago.
Right. So we could close it just before the next select board meeting. And I'm thinking the next select board meeting on the 20th may be one of the less busier meetings, but what's the date of the?
The press release was dated January 28th.
January 28th. So then February 27th. So it would be a week after.
Yeah, we can't.
Oh, right. So maybe we should just say the end of the month, end of February. That's easy for people to keep in mind.
February 28th closing date?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Now the challenge is that the meeting after that, March 6th, that's the caucus. So we're trying to keep that a short meeting.
Yeah.
exactly. That's a problem. So, yeah.
I mean, we can always call a special meeting somewhere in between, like if it's February 20.
Well, don't we go into session for a half hour before the advisory public hearing?
Yes, we do.
That's a public session?
I
Yes, but
usually
we go
post the
into,
select board for a
we
half
go-
hour before we go into the advisory hearing.
yeah,
Right. If I recall, that half hour has often been, we sit and look at each other and think, what are we gonna say?
yeah, so that's why I said that.
Yeah,
That would be a fallback position.
that
Yeah.
would be.
My only concern is that that is not traditionally a well attended select board meeting by the general public. And
True.
on the assumption that people will be interested in I don't know, will people be interested in our deliberation on this commission or not? I don't actually know.
They may be. Certainly the applicants will be. And if we have, a handful of applicants and have to choose two, they'll all be very interested.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point, Stephen.
And the meeting's not televised.
Yes, that's right. It would not
Right.
be televised.
Right, because it's hybrid. We'll be in town hall.
That's
Well,
right.
not necessarily. Advisory's hearing, I think he said is going to be virtual.
No, it's hybrid. They're gonna be in town hall.
They
So
are,
we
okay.
probably should be in town hall as well. It's just
Oh, all right.
it'll be a hybrid meeting
Oh, all right. I didn't know that.
yeah.
Right. And let's see, that is, sorry, again, what's the date of that meeting?
That is March 22nd.
Second, right. So we have a regular meeting on the 6th of March. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So I'd say the only time that we could reasonably have a special meeting would be Thursday, February 27th, which would be exactly 30 days.
Right. Well, if we assume that we'll all get all the applications by that morning, I mean, it gives us not a long time to review them. We should have a time to read them before the
Right, I know.
meeting. So I want
Because
to
I
give
may
it,
not get some into the last
Do
minute.
Diane, do you know right now for that March 6th meeting, is there a number of things that are already
No,
going to be on?
there is really nothing on there. No, there's nothing really.
And what time caucus is at 8, right?
Right, so maybe if the select board met at 6 again? We're gonna meet in person that night
We're
too?
gonna meet in person, yeah. 6 in person is gonna be hard for me.
Okay, so 6:30, let's say?
Yeah, 6:30, and then we try to do an hour-long meeting.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can do that. That's doable.
Yeah, I think if we
6:30
just
to 7:30.
if we just know that is going to be an important agenda item in that meeting, and we try not to stack other
anything else.
things into
Yep.
that unless they're time sensitive,
Okay, that's fine. I can do that.
6:30 on March 6th. And
Yeah.
everyone who has applied certainly will be alerted that is when we're meeting and making the decision.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's fair. And these are all public meetings. Incidentally, the interim commission and the definitive commission, when that's finally put into place.
I've received 2 applications. Do you want me to forward them to the select board as they come in?
I would just wait till you've got them all, and then
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, wait till you have them all, at least,
Okay.
but a few days before the end. If there are some stragglers, they'll have, the last few days to put their application in, but
Okay,
yeah, let's get them all together. Jeremy didn't mention, but we should mention the interim commission, the interim North Sherborn Water and Sewer Commission and the definitive one will be public bodies. I mean, they are not governed by the town, but they are public bodies and their meetings will be public.
Mhm.
And yeah.
I have a related question when we get to it, Stephen, on the same subject, but I'll let you finish this one.
yeah. My only question to Jeremy, do you know if the Sherborn Water Commissioners have chosen their appointee to the interim commission or not yet?
I don't believe they have yet, no.
Okay.
I don't think they have water commissioners because what's her name stepped down and
they
Roger.
have 3.
Yeah, no, we've replaced them.
They have three.
Oh,
Yeah,
did we?
we have three, but they don't, it doesn't have to be one of them. They can either appoint one of themselves or they can appoint someone else.
All right, Jeff, well, you had a
Well,
question?
so now that we're in the budget year, do we need to fund the water commission? Like, do they need to hire some legal expertise, for example, or do they need to hire some financial or technical expertise to advise them on setting up regulations or setting up policies? I don't know if there's any money in the budget for them.
They do
Yeah.
have special counsel.
We
Yeah,
have special counsel.
I think, well, I know, but we need to set it, it probably needs to be in our budget submittal. I don't know that we want to just do reserve fund transfers whenever they need things.
But it comes out of the legal budget.
Excuse me?
It comes out of the law
Well,
budget.
that's just the legal, but they may need a technical engineering resource or something. I don't know what they need. Or a financial resource for how do you set rates and things like that, you know?
That's a good point, Jeff. I mean, Jeremy is very experienced in this. He's been
Yeah.
water commissioner, so we have his volunteer help. But also, yeah, we probably will need some.
They're going to need some resources and might even need some space in town hall to store documents or wherever we decide. But we're going to need to.
Does the select board budget have a budget line for consulting?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. And do you know approximately how much is in that?
As a placeholder.
Yeah. Because we don't always use it, right?
Right.
I just putting it out there is something we need to deliberately think about, is all I'm saying.
No,
Yeah.
Jeff, I've asked those same questions. You're quite right, especially as we get toward the end of the interim period and things are really moving along.
Yeah.
But we still have time to figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say that probably for the special counsel that goes into legal, and then we've got a consulting line in the select board budget. And if it comes to pass that we blow through that for some reason, then, you know, we can do a reserve fund transfer should that come to pass, and then know that for the fiscal 27 budget, we need to increase that line.
Yeah, and I think it allows voters to know that we're dedicating funds to it. So they're also, you know, we're not just doing these reserve fund transfers behind the scenes. They're seeing that we're funding a public water supply.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like because the consulting line in the select board budget, generally speaking, it's not like we already know ahead of time what consultants we need. It's kind of a blank
true.
there, you know. So this would be one of those things where, like, okay, we're gonna need the consulting budget line this year, and if it turns out we need more than we budgeted, then we'll budget higher, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments with regard to the interim water commissioners? All right. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion relative to the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
You already accepted one grant tonight too. You're having a roll. All right, you guys. We didn't beat Dan's record. It's only 10:25. So thank you.
We've only got a motion so far.
Second Paul's motion.
All right. Jeff.
Aye.
Marion.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
And I'm a nay.
All right.
All right. See you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Good night.